And he was
we
just
need
like
to see if it
smiling
messed
at
up
him all the
anything.
time.
I did not.
Especially being balanced so well. Typically, you know, it goes.
Well, to be fair, you have to have a very high
shut up with that
IQ.
stupid joke, Jesus. So,
Okay.
can you like manually spin it, or does it go on
You're
its
gonna
own?
search it here.
You spin it.
That's crazy.
Just kind of do that and it stays.
Wow, that's cool. So, how much does that cost?
Okay, it's like now.
No, it's working now.
Can I hit record? Let's see if it's.
So well, typically you well, to be fair, you have to have a very high IQ.
Just you. Shut up about that.
Look what it's gonna show us. What?
That's fine. Let's just keep it there. Just to be sure.
Probably put your phone away at this point.
Leave it on and everything?
Yeah, just go. Start.
Don't even put stuff?
No.
Okay.
Just lower the volume all the way. And just turn on and check it every like 10 minutes.
Got it.
And
Lighting and
just
everything on?
Stick on the audio, do the transitions, and we should be good.
Oh, so it's already recording, correct?
Yeah, let's leave it. Cause I do the editing anyways. There's no one on the live right now. So
Are
we're
we
fine.
going to add facts videos?
Yeah.
Do
So
the
that's
same thing, which was a.
fine. No, don't worry about that.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, that's fine. Cool. And
Should be enough room for all of us, I hope.
yeah, should be. I'm gonna put my right butt cheek on the arm. There we go. Awesome. Sweet.
Oh yeah.
Cool. And then you want to grab that, Rob? I'm just gonna hold on to there.
It said Rob, not Luis.
I guess we'll just hold on to this guy here for now.
Baby, on my phone, you can't see you.
That's good.
Okay. Just making sure.
It's supposed to go that way. It's supposed to look at them. That because on my phone you can see me, right?
Too.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. You're good. And everything, I'll get all the stuff up whenever this starts up. Cool then. All right. What was Super Bowl? What was it?
52?
52?
52.
L-I-I, right? I was never a Super Bowl guy. So
Yeah.
never a football fan.
I'm never a Roman numeral guy, so I was like, the hell's the L? Okay, cool.
What the fuck is an L? I don't know. You can ask the Patriots that.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Come on.
That was great.
That was pretty good.
That was
That was
great.
nice.
Oh my gosh. Moment of silence for Tom Brady.
Right.
Okay,
So Super Bowl was cool. Eagles won. That's a win there. It's Black History Month, and so we're in the month of February, and we want to do this show kind of just talking about, you know, Black Lives Matter, talk a little bit about, you know, Kaepernick and, you know, kind of why he took a knee for police brutality. First thing I want to talk about, though, is kind of just like racial injustice, and that just kind of has to do with more with like policemen. Any of you guys ever like gone through that at all?
You, how about yourself? Anything for you?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I grew up Lincoln Village, part of Sacramento. Sacramento's a cool town, you know, for most people. It's not much of a problem, but like being in specifically places like Rancho Cordova, lower income places, growing up as a kid, you see a lot of, you know, nitty-gritty stuff. I've always had positive, you know, outlook on the police, so I never really had a problem with them, you know? Because, I was just kind of raised to be a real stuck-up, kind of two-shoes kind of kid. But personally, I never had any systemic problems. It's mostly just kind of teasing and bully stuff. But personally, I've only had clean record with the police. So I'm pretty happy. But, you know, I'm from a Latino background, so. No,
it makes sense. And I'm half black, half Mexican. And but my pigmentation, definitely they wouldn't say, well, he must be half black, half Mexican. They're just going to say he's black. And that's kind of how I got looked at. I mean, I've had nothing but police altercations in my life. And that's always seems to be the divide when it comes to talking to people about it, because I've literally, every single time there's a police officer, it seems like I always get in some type of altercation with it. It's crazy. And I have a complete clean record. I have no record whatsoever. Good citizens. I was a corrections officer at one point.
Yeah.
Was a good citizen, but it's just the fact that I don't know what it is. If it's maybe the media, something where when a cop sees me, he either has to question me more or he has to take things to the next level on certain situations, even though, and because at first when it happened to me, I thought, well, maybe it's just, you know, maybe I'm overthinking. I'm just trying to play the black card. Maybe it's just me, right? Because I grew up in a town where I was the only black kid. There was just, it is Safford, Arizona, Southeast. There's like, I was the only black kid in that whole school. And that's about 500 students of a 2A school. And I literally, you know, anytime we'd have situations, I'd be with like 8 of my friends who were all, you know, white and a mix of Mexicans too. But it was always me kind of getting pulled aside and questioned more. Always me that they would come after me. The worst thing though was probably that happened here in Roseville. Those are the craziest cops ever.
For real?
Yeah. I actually had a gun pulled out on me.
No
Never had that
way,
happen
dude.
before.
What
Yeah.
happened?
I basically was driving to go to Jack in the Box late at night. I won't
That's
say
one
what I
does.
was doing, but I was,
That's
you
what
know,
it
it's
does.
late at night. You know, I just came back from the club, so I was driving. You know.
This is like what, 1 in the morning? Like how late?
This is actually about 2:30 in the morning,
Okay.
and so I'd actually, you know, driven.
You were clubbing.
Yeah, I
you
was
were
clubbing.
Yeah.
I went. I guess I just hit the bump too hard, and the officer. I thought I passed by a construction site. It wasn't. That was actually a DUI checkpoint.
Oh shit.
But when he came, the cool part is the cop actually did save me because I didn't have to go through there. But he had pulled me over and he told me to, you know, get out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And when he did, he just freaked out. I guess just because I drove a small car, he just thought I was a tiny guy.
And then he
And
saw
so-
this black guy get out, and he was like,
He
better
just-
pull my gun out.
His bottom lip started, getting crazy and pulled his gun out. Now, he didn't point it at me, but he
But he
did
had
pull
it-
it
he had it
out.
ready.
That's
go.
an inferiority complex between his legs, man.
I don't know. I don't know what
That
it
could be-
was.
Okay, so like, but like the okay, so obviously I'm not black, you know.
Yeah,
but
Obviously.
yeah, obviously. But like,
We want to put that on record. You ain't
put
black.
that on the record, just to let y'all know. But the thing is, like, you know, you always hear the idea that, you know, as long as you comply, you know, nothing wrong happens. But a lot of people don't have a perspective of a black person, you know, or like what it's like. Because you're saying you're an outstanding citizen. You do your things. You go to school. You know, you do your stuff right. You know, you work, and you're just enjoying a night out. And for some reason, this cop is, you know, makes these assumptions about you. You know, where it's like. The argument is obviously, you know, just keep your hands to yourself, keep your hands out in the open, yes sir, no sir, yada yada yada, and things shouldn't go wrong at all. Nobody should die. But what they don't know, or what they don't understand, is that, you know, you're being predisposed to, you know, having some sort of bias against you. You know, you step out of the car. If you were a little old white lady, he probably wouldn't have thought much about it. But then he saw the beard, you know, and you're getting up out of your car, and the guy went for the gun. You know, so it's
Right.
That's
just like,
no old white lady.
that's no white.
That's a tall black man.
Because I mean, yeah, I totally agree. You know, when it comes to like situations like that, the cops are gonna have more biases. You know, according to certain ideas, certain peoples, they got predispositions. You know, they got ideas about who does what and when and where. You know, so this cop's out here like 2 a.m. You know, expecting people to be drunk in the first place. You feel me? That's what he's doing.
That is
You know?
because 2:30 is the prime time for when people are going to leave and people are going to go out, and when they're coming back from clubbing, they are going to be drinking and driving because there's always going to be those kind of people out there. And I'm not going to assume, but judging by how you made what you said in your story, you drove past the DUI checkpoint and you hit a curb and it kind of shook the car. That's could have given him a perspective. Maybe this guy's.
Oh no, it was a regular, like where you
Just a
go
speed
in.
bump.
The way they built it. If you went there now, you'll
Oh.
do the same thing. It's just the way it's made.
Oh, it's the way it's
you'll
made?
hit it.
Yeah.
You'll hit this regular drive-in, and they just made it too high.
Yeah.
So your car will automatically go up if you're going over
Exactly.
5 miles
So
an
you
hour.
you would say that the
So-
cop, though, pulling you over,
Mhm.
once he saw who you were, like your figure and your skin, that he immediately had something else go off in his head, and that's why
Right.
he went for the gun.
And I think what it is too, if it wasn't even just a little bit of that,
Hmm.
I already knew it was going to be bad just because of the tone of my skin. Because, for instance, like, 'cause I'll tell some of my white friends that are just like, you know, we'll drive into an apartment complex. Because one time this happened, we drove in, right, and there was about 8 cops in there.
What the
And immediately, in my head, I heard what he said. He was like, "Oh, I wonder what's going on, man. I wonder if we can help. It's like a situation." And then me, I was like,
Shit.
"Oh shit! I need to think of an alibi. I need to think of like how I can get out of a situation because they're gonna come to me. They're gonna
ask you
question me.
questions. Like, where you been?
What have I been doing? Like, oh my gosh! Like I'm actually fearful while he
Was-
wasn't.
Was this here in Placerville as well? Or was this
Citrus
somewhere else?
Heights, yeah.
Citrus Heights,
So-
man. And that's like high end, not high end, but like higher income. You know, it's a nicer neighborhood. So.
upper middle class.
Upper middle class. It's
Right.
not like where I grew up. I grew up, it's just like, you used to hear gunshots every night where I woke up, man. But I never had anything negative. You hear a
I live
chopper.
down the street from you.
You live like across the highway from me.
I do not live
But
across
you
the
can
highway
hear
from
you can hear choppers though every night and
Oh, yeah.
gunshots. But that was like 10 years ago, you know, and but even that never had any negative issues,
Dude,
you know.
I dropped you off last week and there was gunshots.
Let's not talk about my house like that, okay? But what about yourself, man? You ever had a problem?
Oh,
with
definitely.
cops at all?
Definitely. Like I mentioned before, you asked me where I was from.
You
So I
sound
grew
good?
up in Richmond, California, which is in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I've had multiple, and I'm not even all black, even though I consider myself black no matter what, because
Mixed?
that mixture is very, very strong, especially dealing with that type of ethnicity.
Yeah.
But just speaking on, I want to keep it more current. You know, he speaks about you talked about perspective. It's not necessarily perspective when it's dealing with blacks. It's the reality.
Yeah.
The perspective is put on to basically show that, okay, that only happens to you, and then that's okay. And that's just another way to set the narrative to say that it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way the media positions it.
So you're
That this only happens for this set of folks, and it's their problem.
So
and a problem that they may create.
So
And I think that's the issue.
So you're saying that it's not only just like that it happens, but we keep letting it be the case. Like the media and certain people just continue believing, oh, well, this just happens because...
Well, it's the complex of, in general, black folks need to pick themselves up by their own bootstraps. And to me, that's nonsensical. Mm-hmm. When you look at the history, you have to understand, and I don't want to make this necessarily a history lesson, but for us to know the future and predict it, you're going to have to look back. Yeah. And you need to understand that, and a lot of people who look at it from the outside who may not know, who may be a little bit more ignorant in the situation, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you can always change that. It's always dealing with the fact that, so 1965, Civil Rights Movement. So it's only been 50 odd years
not that long
since that moment. And it's the narrative that's pushed in the media that black folks should basically been over slavery or any type of segregation or any type of Jim Crow laws or any type of, anti-voting suppressing laws, things like that, when that was going on for, more than half a century, that time, and then be over it in 50 years.
Oh, no, you're right. It's not that you just forget,
And there's always been a certain dynamic when it deals with authorities and blacks. And that goes all the way back to the plantation owner and blacks. And because you have to understand that when blacks were freed in 1865, and that's not even when they were freed, that was the Immaculate Proclamation.
Yeah.
That's why that's why we celebrate Juneteenth and not that, because they weren't necessarily you guys can go. Yeah. That's not the way it works.
They still kept them on the plantation for like rent control and stuff. They were stuck there either way then.
Mm-hmm. And then what ended up happening is so when they were freed, but then being a nomad was against the law. So now basically you just got sent back to the plantation owner you were just freed from. And now you're forced back into servitude again, even though you were technically free.
And that's when the 15th and... No, which one was the Emancipation? Was that 13th?
13th.
And then 14th and 15th were the right to vote, and then...
the 13th was...
But then you have to consider, you only consider 2/3 of a person.
Exactly.
So you weren't even a full vote.
Even there's a 3/5 compromise.
So you don't... When you look at it from that perspective, there's a big dichotomy between that. Yeah. And dealing with myself, like just to give a specific situation, and this is in SAC. And I was working at a job where I worked late. I get off at 2 a.m. Yeah. I just started the job, so I hadn't gotten a uniform yet. So I'm loading trucks.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing a hoodie, and I'm pulling in. I'm literally a block from my house.
Yeah. And you're in this truck, or are you like in your?
No. I'm in my own car. I'm coming home.
Yeah, but you got the hoodie on. It's cold.
No, my hoodie's not on. My hoodie's on my body. My hoodie's not on my head.
Okay.
But I'm just driving in my car, and I'm about to make a left, and then I see this cop, and I see headlights. So I'm like, all right, so I just turn like I'm supposed to turn.
Like another person.
And I can see in the rear view, he circles around, hits the lights, pulls me over, and there's 6 cop cars.
6?
So, pulls up, asks me, where I'm coming from. I said, work. And he said, well, where do you work? And I told him where I work. And he said, well, we heard these gunshots, and you were the first car we saw. So then that's when he tried to ask me to get out the car and all of that, wanted to search the car, which I told him he couldn't.
Which you have the right to deny because you have no, reason to hide.
And that's when he got upset. He said, well, what do you have to hide? I said, I don't have nothing to hide. I said, I just don't have to allow you to search my car. And he said, well, you say you're coming from work. You don't look like you're dressed from work. I said, well, I just started the job. And I said, this is the uniform I'm wearing. I said, you can see I got steel-toed boots on. This is where we work. And I got jeans on, and he asked me if I'm a Crip because I had a blue T-shirt under that. and I said no.
Why would you assume that?
But I'm just, I'm talking to him, and at this point he wants to, search me, and I said no. I said, and he said, well, where do you live? Right around the corner. I said, you want to check? You've already checked my license, and you can look it up. It's literally, I can walk there right now. And so he ends up letting me go because they had nothing. But then what ticked them off more was probably my response after was, it really took, because you guys are this bored, that took 6 cars.
And you would say that, like, you forgot you were black until they pulled you over.
And I didn't even bring up race because to me it went without saying.
Yeah, you already knew.
And I think that, and it could have been also the type of car. You know, I had a 91 Oldsmobile, and so they're probably looking at it from that perspective. I didn't hear any gunshots, and my radio wasn't even on.
Yeah.
So I would have heard something. So I think there was BS.
Mm-hmm.
But just to give that idea, that was the first night. The very next night, I get pulled over by the very same cop.
Uh-huh.
Same car. Now I'm probably 3 blocks away from my house.
Same dudes?
Same dude, same
Oh,
time,
man.
same cop. And he says that he couldn't see he said my license plate light was out. And I said, well, you mind if I get out the car and check myself? And he didn't want to let me get out and check.
So now he doesn't want you to get out.
So I'm like, okay, so what's the violation for that? And he said, well, it's a fix-it ticket. I said, okay, well, there's O'Reilly's just down the street, and I'll take care of that in the morning. Is there anything else? And he said, well, you mind if we search your car? Try to go that again. And I said, no. I said, I'm going to give you the same answer I gave you last night. So basically, doesn't have anything. I go home. My license plate light is not out.
Yeah. That's nuts there. You mentioned earlier the whole pull your black folks pulling stuff by the bootstraps. You might have real quick, but I totally agree with that sentiment where it's like it's not that simple, and there's a certain extent where like I believe that there are certain people out there they're in certain situations because they got themselves in there, and it could be anybody, you could be white, you could be black, you could be Asian. If you're stuck in like a crack den, or you got some going on, there's some way for yourself to at least try to struggle your way out. There's a way to do it, but there's a certain point where there's certain stereotypes or just things in society or just I don't want to say institutional stuff, but that's more like legal stuff. But like there's predisposed ideas that people have that you can't avoid no matter what. Like when you guys are getting pulled over, like for me, there's a lot of times myself where I didn't realize I was brown until some shit happened, and I was like, oh shit, I'm brown. Because I forget about that shit. I forget that I'm brown. I live my day every day. Like I don't care who I am. I just live my day normally, And then something will come up that'll like just, you're Mexican, bro. I'm like, oh shit, I am Mexican. Because I live my day by day, however I like to live it. But there are certain moments and certain times where something, not always necessarily negative, but it can be as bad as being pulled over with a gun nearly drawn on you. When you forget that that's the case, and I think that's the biggest problem. Some people try to construe it, try to make it like non-existent, but you have to accept the fact and acknowledge the fact that that's there. Even for people that are mixed. I mean, this dude, you're half Puerto Rican, half white, right?
See,
and he gets stuff all the time. He himself gets stuff all the time. I mean, you get the school shooter stuff all the time, but like because you're half Puerto Rican, he gets the school shooter stuff.
Honestly, I got arrested.
This
in
dude,
the 8th grade.
Long story short,
actual cop.
He brought it like
I'll actually tell the story.
Yeah, go for it. Because this is this dude's fault. Okay, this is his fault. Jesus Christ, dude. Oh my God.
See,
go for it.
Ironically, I'm the whitest one here, but I'm the one who's actually been arrested, have a record and everything like that. Which you hear your guys' story about this. You guys had this. I've actually had altercations with police officers before where I've actually been arrested.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know.
So where were you? How old were you? And why were you arrested? Give me those 3 points. Where were you? Why were you arrested?
I was at Albert Einstein Middle School. I was in the 8th grade.
Okay.
We went to middle school together. You know this.
Yeah, but why were you arrested?
Okay,
or
so
detained?
A couple months before, there
You don't like this.
Go
for it.
There were these
I'm all is.
black kids that lived down the street from me that I was friends with.
Mm-hmm.
And they came over one day and saw that me and my friend were playing my original Xbox in my garage. They came in and saw that my dad had 2 airsoft guns, and they were a Glock 19 and a Glock 21. Well, they asked to borrow my game, a game of mine, so I went inside to go give it to them because I was a nice kid. They ended up stealing the guns, and then they never gave back my game, which is ironic. And they immediately went to the elementary school that was directly located behind my house, and started pointing the guns at the kids, robbing of their lunch money. And
His middle school.
Yeah, and it got traced back to me because those were my those were my dad's and my guns. A couple months later, I was telling my buddy Max about it. A guy I known since kindergarten. He goes, "Oh, I have an airsoft gun I'm trying to sell. Would you like to buy it?" So, like, if you give it to me, I can take it to my dad and see if he wants to buy it. He gives it to me. I go to my dad, and he says it's like a $20 piece of junk, so just give it back. So the next day, I go take it back to my buddy Max. Me being the goody two-shoes that I was, I'm just trying to be a good kid. I'm letting my friends know, hey, this isn't real. This is Max. I'm just giving it back to him.
But
there was this girl named, actually I don't remember her name, but she was dating my friend Zach.
Okay.
And she hated me. So she walked up to the police officer on campus and told the cop that I was robbing students at gunpoint for their money.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy Michael runs up to me and tells me that's what's going on. So me ditching the gun and giving it back to him so he throws it in the garbage can. It was like I was.
The thing is, he brought the gun to school, bro. He
I
brought the gun to school.
I didn't.
He brought it to school.
I didn't think it was a big deal. You know why? Because I was a stupid kid.
Yeah, but
I was a stupid good at teachers. And as soon as they brought me in, I confessed everything. I was like, I have no ammo for this. I don't have gas. It doesn't work. I thought, I had explained the situation before. And the cop was like, you have the right to remain silent. I got charges put against me. I had to go to court. I had to get all that sort of stuff done.
The thing,
and
though...
people, for the rest of the year, they thought I was going to shoot up the school.
And it's not a joke anymore, though. Because you guys heard about the 12-year-old girl, right?
No.
That 12-year-old girl, last week, a 12-year-old girl went up to a school in Los Angeles and shot up the school. Killed a kid, injured another one. A 12-year-old girl. And I'm pretty sure... Yeah, man. And it's terrible, man. But, like, it's just...
a lot.
It's
when
just...
I got it all throughout high school, because a lot of people I knew from middle
But
school went to high school with them, and it all carried over.
But, like, it wraps around with the whole, like, racial thing. Everyone's got a thing going on, And when it comes to, like,
and most of the time that stems from stereotypes that are based off statistics.
Yeah, but,
when it comes to school shootings, most mass shooters are white. That's just a statistic. That's just a statistic. You can't really say that's racist or anything. That's just statistical evidence. And if you look at like how cops are, they target African Americans.
Mm.
Well, that's because they make up 13% of the population, but commit 51% of the homicides. So cops are going to look for.
That's mostly black on black, right?
Yeah,
but it's just problems in
communities,
man. It's terrible.
Blacks shoot each other more significantly than any other race, and that's just because where they're set up in life, where they're at in life, and they're usually getting that's statistics.
And the main issue I was trying to get at, though, is that there's these problems that each people has. Like Latinos got their thing. Blacks and mad mixes got their thing. I never got a gun pulled on me for being brown. You feel me? And you've had it before, and I feel bad, because like that shouldn't happen, and that's just, I don't know, something we got to try to work on. I'm not sure how we'll get along to it, but it's more of a social thing. There's only so far laws can get, But when it comes to certain social standings and people, what can we do? We can't police people's minds, There's a certain level where you just can't do anything about it unless you go person to person, and try to get contact. Because at one point you got to sit and talk about shit, Sit down and talk about it.
Sit down and talk about it.
Well, you talked about the statistics, as far as. So my question to you was, do you think that blacks are more predisposed to being violent, since they make up those statistics?
No.
And if they do, or not, then what's the reason?
I wouldn't say that you're more disposed to being violent because you're black. I would say because of how they've they try to establish themselves. I'm not saying, I'm saying statistically, most black people grow up in low income and housing.
And that's my question. Why would that be?
Because we can. They're going to do everything they can to survive. They're going to keep themselves.
No, but the thing is, he also mentioned the part where
means that they will have to resort to crime. Some people have to resort to crime, and that's just it.
And I understand the statistics now, but you also have to look at history and something.
No, yeah, history.
Because like he was saying, at some point, black people were being kicked down to the dirt.
I'm not denying.
No, I'm not saying that either. But like there are certain things that we have issues now. Every person's got an issue, but to like ignore the history, like you said, is just kind of is blissfully ignorant.
Because he is ignorant. If you don't look into the history,
because I look at it from the perspective of we talk about the statistics because the numbers are there.
Yeah,
you can do the research. When you talk about the population of this country, especially dealing with African Americans, is overpopulated in the prison system. Right. And my question is, and especially when there's on a more media forum. On TV, they have these debates, whether it be CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, whatever the case may be, or a podcast.
Yeah.
It's always talked about the statistics. My question has always been, why is that? And that's where the conversation stops. Because it seems that there is no other argument besides that because of predisposition of being prone to that type of environment. Now, granted, the environment does hurt the person and hurts the community.
It plays a huge factor.
And there's, as far as, and I could speak all day when we start getting into the actual community of blacks and stuff like that and how we need to uplift ourselves. But the issue is this concept of keep moving the goal line.
Yeah.
And it seems like I said before, picking yourself by your own bootstraps, but you need to understand that other races, especially white in this case, have had, 1,000-year head start.
Mm-hmm.
But then they expect for us to be on that same level, and then when you say something about it, you're saying you're playing yourself as the victim.
Yeah.
Which I've never made myself as a victim. I know Tony himself, he's never claimed himself to be the victim. We just acknowledge the injustices that happen, and we just amicably move forward and accordingly, and how we adjust. I know that I'm going to have to work 5 to 10 times harder than that guy, just based on my circumstance and my past, and just the way the social construct is working so far. Now, is it better than it was, back, behind the whip? Of course, but now it's a little bit more blurry.
Yeah.
Because now the enemy, in my eyes, which is the establishment and which is greedy people, is now blurred.
Yeah.
Because now it's a situation where there's this concept of, you know what, you can pull yourself out. Like, you think of it this way. I'll kind of give you an example. Yeah. And I know everyone here has heard this. Is you sound white.
Oh, yes.
That right there,
I get that so much.
is the epitome of the supremacy part. Is that talking proper or enunciating your words is labeled as white.
Yeah, and it's not just,
or correctness.
And it's not even just white people saying it. It's like other races. Like I've had
exactly.
I grew up, a real stand-up kid. I've been told I'm whitewashed, and it's and why do they call me whitewashed? Because I don't use like ebonics and slur. Because I knew what words like juxtapose mean, and that's the problem.
I don't even know what that means.
Your grammar's not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But like it's this problem where it's not just that, but it's like this perversion of not just the discussion, but winning the discussion, where people don't want to be wrong, where it's like we have this goal in mind, and we may have different objectives in the very end, but people get perverted and blurred by wanting to win and moving the goalpost. When we start making progress in one direction, but wait a minute, I don't want to look stupid, so we're gonna change it a little bit. We're gonna say this, you're gonna say that, and I think that's the worst part. Is perversion of wanting to be right. And this whole idea, and like you said, this whole superiority.
I think it deals with guilt.
Yeah,
I think that's the guilt is what can try to cover up. So when you feel guilty about something, especially something as big a landscape as this type of plight on a certain amount of people, no one wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to actually talk about it. Make amends, and that I think that's the key part, is the making amends. And I'm not necessarily talking about reparations. I'm talking about making amends and making the acknowledgement. But no one wants to acknowledge, and we're talking about this now because we can talk about individualism right now.
Absolutely.
As far as individual situations, we all right now have gone ahead and said our piece. But to me, it's even deeper than that. The system in which laws are made have bias. And bias history behind it. And I mean, we're probably going to get into that discussion here later, but I think we have to start there. And that a lot of these things that have been implemented in this country are not necessarily weren't created in the sense meant for everybody. If that makes sense.
It already has a predisposed kind of idea as to target a certain people.
Exactly, because you think about it, the war on crime. I mean, war on drugs. To me, that's total nonsense. That the idea that the country is actually at war of actually getting rid of drugs, it's nonsensical to me. When they're the ones who flooded it. I mean, you can go through the CIA operatives through the back in the early 90s, like in the late 80s and stuff like that. Like that's all it is, because you think about it when you talk about the mandatory minimums. You're talking about and it's the targeting part. And you mentioned it about as far as the population of blacks in reference to the prison system. As far as a cop is concerned, now you put yourself in your mind of a cop. Okay, I need to make these arrests, or I need to patrol this area. So I'm going to patrol where the crime is. We talk about that. Why is that the crime? So now we start talking about, okay, the living conditions. Is it a 2-parent household? You start that's where they kind of stop.
Yeah.
Where I see when they start talking about the solution, they say, okay, well, we need more fathers in these kids' lives.
Yeah.
Or we need them not to be incarcerated. Or we need the mother to not be on drugs. Whatever the case may be. That's where the conversation ends when it comes to this. But I think you got to get deeper than that. You got to deal with the redlining. You got to start dealing with the welfare system.
Yeah, exactly.
How the welfare system has been created to replace
the
father in the house.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you.
And I think those type of situations, once you start getting deeper, especially dealing with
it's a whole.
It's the entirety of that idea really makes up for good conversation, but no one wants to have it.
Exactly.
And they don't want to have it on the mega platforms like
Because
CNN. And I know some people try to bring it up, but a lot of them get shot down because there's
controversial.
certain criteria that they have to meet, and they want to appease their constituents or whatever the case may be. So I understand the agenda there, because theirs has to deal with ratings. At the end of the day, regardless of what side you fall under,
you're making money.
they have to make money to make their broadcast to get the hits.
Keep it going.
And without that, they're not going to last.
Exactly.
So I get that. So you're really not going to get the real conversation unless you have forums like this, or just the conversations you have with people at your job or in your family or whatever the case may be. I think the biggest issue is actually talking about it and stop making the excuses.
Yeah.
Because that's where I kind of start getting frustrated, is with the excuses. Because like I said, I never use race as a crutch for myself, despite how much I should, based through the experiences that I've had.
You deserve to use a card once or twice.
But I don't, because I realize that that's not going to be to my benefit for the long term.
Exactly.
And I will never use that as an excuse. That makes me more hungry to work harder. And I just understand that. Do I wish better? Because I got kids and I want it better for them, of course. But I think we still need to be having those real conversations, where I think is absent a lot.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I agree with you on that, man. What do you think, Tony?
I don't know, when he's talking about the frustration of it, something else I'm going to kind of jump into right now is with something that had started off as a slogan. When we're talking about, police brutality, the things that happen to us, how we feel.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, well, I don't know, is it really happening? And well, yeah, bro, I'm telling you it is. Like, this is what's going on.
Man, they did surveys back in back when there actually was segregation, and they asked white people back then, do they think black people are treated differently? And those surveys are the same surveys as far as the percentages of them being treated poorly, and they're saying no. So I just think that's ironic that that's the same idea, and we're supposed to be changing this narrative. But that's the problem. Everybody's changing it to fit their benefit. Yeah. And they're not talking about the real issue.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that's crazy, because that was in the 60s. And it's obvious to us looking at videos and seeing, the hoses and the dogs and everything that was happening to those people during the civil rights era, that was wrong. But people were still saying, like, no, there was no mistreatment then.
Man, the patience it takes, man, to sit there and just take a fight. Those things hurt, man.
Fire hoses ain't a joke. Yeah, they're not at all.
It's like that Dave Chappelle skit that he did that he was talking about. He said, honey, did you see this? He said, apparently the police have been beating up Negroes like hotcakes. In the May issue.
It's in the May issue. Which one was that?
What was that? I think that was killing them softly. I think.
Okay,
the one he did in DC.
So what's that segueing into? What are we segueing into?
Oh, so we're segueing into pretty much like this is like the twilight zone of conversations. I swear, because I literally am trying to get to a point when I'm telling people this, and they go, and they'll just turn it off. And it's whenever we talk about Black Lives Matter, right? Like the slogan, I'd always said, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, cool, Black Lives Matter. Okay, I see what makes sense with that. But then, this organization came up, which was founded by 3 women that, started the Black Lives movement. Yeah. And me myself, kind of knowing, that, and I'm not against the NAACP, but I understand, I have my own beliefs on why that was started, especially it wasn't started by black people. Yeah. But I believe that the organization Black Lives Matter, I don't really agree with some of the things that they do. Yeah. Some of the things that they kind of go with. I'm kind of like, whoa, where did that come from? Because the slogan and that are 2 different things.
Absolutely, yeah.
So then I always get, I have certain friends that still love to joke with me and be like, nope, all lives matter. All lives matter. Or they'll just say, frogs lives matter. Or birds lives matter. Or just but they're trying to just get that little...
The one that gets me... The one that gets me the blue lives matter.
They're trying to win.
Gets me.
And the problem is here...
Wait, did you say blue lives matter?
Blue lives matter.
It's about police.
Yeah,
That's
for
not a
cops.
race.
But that's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
basically the sheriff out of Clark County made that. Basically, he was one of the sheriffs in
Clark?
in Chicago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he ended up quitting that job.
Did he for real?
Yeah, he quit. He resigned
wow.
because he thought that he was going to get a position in the White House with Homeland Security under the Trump organization because he was speaking, and he didn't get it.
Oh, man.
But yeah, he put that out there. He made that speech. He said, "Blue Lives Matter."
It's basically about how recently, within, I guess you could say, like the past 5 years, there has been a rising number of cops that have been killed on duty by people just going out and being angry at the police, and they're saying that like their lives matter too, and that's when it all bundles down to people saying all lives matter, which I get. People can say that saying all lives matter is a protest to the Black Lives Matter protest, but me personally, I don't agree with a lot of the things Black Lives Matter fights for, with the things that they say. I'm that person that says all lives matter. I'm the person. I'm the kind of person that will ask people. I am still trying to find the people that say Black lives don't matter. Yeah. I'm that person saying, where are those people? Because those are the people that are scum of the earth.
Well, if I can cut you off real quick, it's not. Like this is the thing, and it goes back to the perversion of victory. You know, who wants to win the fight? Because like nobody here is denying the fact that like an Asian man's life matters less than like this or that person. You know, it all matters, and the whole idea of Black Lives Matter is to bring attention to the problems going on in the Black community, and the problem is, but the problem is polarization, and it's the whole like wanting to win. Like I said before, Black Lives Matter, like you said, Tony. They got certain ideas and beliefs and slogans they go by, but then they go out and behave a different way, and you're kind of like, what's going on here, Right. And it keeps moving farther in one direction, and then you got some people that say all lives matter, and of course you get the message what's going on, but the counter argument is like you're missing the whole point of saying Black Lives Matter, but it's so polarized now where people have knee-jerk reactions, they hear Blue Lives Matter and then you kind of what the hell,
well that's social media.
Matter. Yeah, and it's so easy to just be so soulless.
Keyboard warrior.
Yeah, absolutely, And on the internet, it's so much harder. It's so much easier to just ignore someone, personally. Because there are people online too, but you're just ignoring them. You're just typing words online. It's just ideas floating around. And it's not people anymore that are talking. It's ideas that are just flowing through people on the internet.
And then it's feeding into their own subconscious, and then they're spitting out. I look at it. You mentioned it, because I'm interested to hear more your perspective on, because you say all lives matter. My question to you would be, did you ever say all lives matter before Black Lives Matter?
Did you ever say all lives matter?
Did you or anybody that you know say all lives matter before Black Lives Matter?
I was that person, yeah.
I've never heard that.
I said, well, before Black Lives Matter became an actual thing, I didn't really know about it until a couple years ago when it really started blowing up. And as I started doing research into it, when I made I established the idea that it's all lives matter.
No, but that's why I asked you. I said before.
So
before Black Lives Matter was a slogan, before it was an organization, before anything that you heard about Black Lives Matter, was there any hashtags? Was there any social media posts about all lives matter? And that's the point. Because to me, and I'm not saying just you personally, but I mean you the one who said you made this stance. Saying all lives matter is basically trying to smother Black Lives Matter, because I look at it like this.
It's a protest to Black Lives Matter.
Right, but there's a difference between, but that's the difference though. There's a difference between protesting the organization and protesting the concept. The issue is with Black Lives Matter, it's basically like this. I'll give you an example. I'm in my house. My house is on fire. I go outside and I say, hey, call the fire department. My house is on fire. My neighbor comes out and says, oh, your house is on fire. Yeah, my house is on fire. Well, all houses matter. Yeah, but mine's on fire though. Yeah, but all houses matter. You shouldn't, but mine is on fire. I needed to get put out. That's the concept. We can talk about the organization, which is funded by George Soros, and we can get in all of that, who's an Hungarian investor. We can get into all that, but I'm talking about the concept.
The concept itself, I understand the concept completely, but it's the way the organization takes their steps into sending that message out is what I disagree with. I get the concept completely, and I agree with it, police brutality, one person dies, that's one too many. There shouldn't be any incidences of police brutality. There's no denying that. But, and like I said, I get the concept. But the way that the organization and the people in the organization take the steps to accomplish their goals or whatever their subjective is, I disagree with.
Well, we can all agree that
I think we all agree on that,
there's the black community, it's got some issues, and there's some issues that you can't dig out of yourself. You can't pull your bootstrap out of everything.
You
need people to pay attention.
You need a mass majority to focus on that issue.
And that's the thing. Like LGBT had their thing going on for the last like decade and a half, and that's pretty much said and done. They've gone along now. Right. And then there was civil rights, and that's going on. But there's still social problems in the black community. And what he's saying, and absolutely correct, and I agree with him on that, is that it's the idea that the house is on fire. The black house is on fire.
And people are trying to warp it to where
because that is to me that's exactly what it ends up coming out. Because the argument that you're making is you're saying that the protests of All Lives Matter, that hashtag, that social media post, that stance. Is to take a shot at the organization, but what I feel like a lot of people are failing to see in that though is that what you're saying, because you have to understand we're acting as people and as human beings on social media. So when I put up a post Black Lives Matter, and especially me coming from a person, I'm not supporting an organization.
Exactly.
I'm supporting the concept of Black Lives Matter based on social justice, and I'm not even talking about the murders of unarmed black men and women. I'm talking about because that's the stat that a lot of people always bring up, and they say, well, that happens about the same as whites. It's a little bit higher than everybody else, but they said it's around the same.
Actually, it's
but
if you want to bring the police,
but it's not about. I'm not talking. But let me finish my point.
Okay.
It's not about the deaths. It's about the violent interactions, and nobody wants to talk about that percentage. That percentage is overwhelming for blacks. Is the violent interactions. So that basically not everything has to end to death. That's just what ends up being broadcast on TV. Because that's the bigger issue. A white cop or whatever shooting a black guy or a black woman or something like that, where the person's life ends up being lost. That's what gets coverage. What doesn't get coverage is the violent interactions that people deal with, that these situations that we just described didn't make headlines. They didn't make the TV
But
screen.
we all know it, because we make jokes about it. Chappelle makes jokes about it. Because we all know it.
But I think that was, even with those jokes, I think what that does is it still creates a narrative that it's just jokes.
Yeah, but it's reality. People, situations, and it's situations like that will lead to the statistic. If that situation never happened to begin with, it wouldn't escalate,
Exactly.
But we can all agree here with the point we're getting across is the Black Lives Matter idea and the concept is absolutely what people should get behind. But individualistic ideas in situations where it gets violent, like you were talking about, Tony, where like Black Lives Matter, of course, yes, I want to help the community. There's problems going on, and we should pitch in and try to figure it out and help it, kind of socially lead together to kind of make it, even. That's what you want to do, because it's down to each person's individual way to carry themselves, what they do and don't joke about, and kind of like how you treat each other. Chappelle made a joke about it because he knows deep down it's true. But just because a certain handful of people may take it a certain way, and behave out of line, doesn't mean that the concept itself is a bad idea. But you should definitely disavow those people. Absolutely. The ones that take it too far will burn a car, some random person's car. Like, what's going on with that?
Well, I look at it and I could counter that, and I could say this then. Then why didn't the plantation owner that doesn't kill his slaves say something to the one that does?
One more time, sorry.
So when you look at when you said that isolate the ones who are acting out of touch or out of line or misrepresenting or staining the concept of Black Lives Matter based on the organization, and you're saying that the organization isn't doing a great job of denouncing those people.
Oh no, that's not the case. I'm just saying that we shouldn't judge the organization because somebody steps out of line under the organization's name.
Correct.
Because the organization isn't.
That's I think that's a different issue because we're dealing with that hashtag. And I'm not saying hashtag because that's what people are posting.
Absolutely.
So every person who puts hashtag Black Lives Matter isn't a member or a worker of the organization. And they're probably stating how they feel, like, hey, Black Lives Matter based on whatever incident just occurred. So,
but everyone likes to line you up with a team, So as soon as you say that, it's like, oh, obviously you're with them now and you're representing them. and whatever you do is going to directly reflect Black Lives Matter. It's not the case.
But my question would be, especially for someone who puts in, like you mentioned yourself, not yourself, but gentleman here to the left. What was your name? Jake. My bad. Jacob.
Jake.
That the hashtag All Lives Matter, or that's a protest to Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that's a protest to the organization.
Not the concepts.
But but my question would be, what effect of detriment do you think that has on the concept and the people who actually feel that their lives don't matter, and not only don't feel it, see it as a reality that their lives don't matter, and the ones who look like them. Mm-hmm. Do you take into account how that may look, even though you're protesting in an organization, but the person James that's just looking on the internet is not seeing that you're protesting the organization. They're seeing, and I'm not speaking to you specifically, I'm talking about anyone who puts All Lives Matter. You are literally, in maybe whether you're directly or indirectly trying to accomplish that, you are basically smothering their idea and what they feel and what they see happening to their friends, themselves, their family members on an everyday basis. And I think we need to have a much bigger moral compass on that, whether, like I said, we all against the establishment. I'm against the establishment. Yeah. But I think sometimes that moral compass needs to be looked at a little bit more in a grander scale.
Yeah. But like what I'm getting is that, when someone says you use the All Lives Matter thing, it's not necessarily you don't mean it as Black lives don't matter, but the people that are acting out is kind of
see, that's the whole Twilight Zone of it. That's funny.
That's weird, right? It's so strange.
That's the weird part where it just everything.
This guy's anti-establishment. You get he's a libertarian too. He's as anti-establishment as you can get.
I think we all are, and it's funny. It's
taxation.
For instance, to give a good example, I'll be on the game, and I'm not even in this conversation, but I'll be on the game, and we'll be hunting this monster. I'm playing Monster Hunter right now. It's awesome, and there's just there's this black dragon going around where this Diablo's thing, and we're killing it, and then this guy's just joking around. He's like, Black Lives Matter, don't kill it, and all of a sudden somebody gets serious, and they're like, bro, shut up with that. All lives matter. And I'm like, I get that it's joking, but now, wait, what did you just say, bro? Now you're on something else. Because wait a second. You weren't attacking an organization. I know he wasn't, because he just said all lives matter. Yeah. Now he's saying something completely different. Now it's getting exactly. Now he's countering the idea. Yeah. I mean, that's a good example, of what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. It's that's the weird Twilight Zone of it, where everyone gets disconnected from what the point is.
There's the organization. There's the people that fly under the flag.
Right.
And you may mean to cross against another, but it's blurred in between, and people don't really think about it. Mm-hmm. Like you said, the All Lives Matter may not be meant to smother the idea that Black lives do matter, but someone will absolutely perceive it that way, because they'll just hear that line and they won't know really the context or what they truly mean behind those words. Because when you talk to somebody, there's two different conversations. There's the initial conversation you're having mouth to mouth, and there's the subconscious ideas going on in your heads, because you're conveying words, but the ideas aren't the words. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you may say, all lives matter as a protest to the Black Lives Matter idea, but what do you mean by that? He doesn't know exactly what you mean by that. He's going to take it as something else, and that's the disconnect.
And then you got to look at it like this, especially. And then you got
this problem.
And then you talk, because you mentioned that you talked about association.
Exactly.
And people who associate with who put a hashtag up, Black Lives Matter, and their association with the Black Lives Matter movement and organization. But then when I see someone hashtagging, and then I could turn around and clump you into the same light. When you put in All Lives Matter, your idea, what you're thinking, what you're claiming that you're putting in your heart on social media, or what you say in speech, is against the organization. But yet when I see other social media posts and it says All Lives Matter, and they got Confederate flags all in the background and on their truck. Mm-hmm. So now I associate you with them.
And now it's a big jumbling mess.
It's just associate. It's when you see something online, you have to talk to the person.
And that's the problem.
You have to talk to the person physically, and you can get the entire idea of what they're trying to say right across. Because seeing something online, you're gonna get your brain's gonna go crazy. You're gonna see things. You're gonna associate it with things that you've learned throughout your life, and you're not gonna get a clear picture of what that person is thinking. Yeah. You have to physically talk to that.
I got a pretty clear idea if they got a Confederate flag in the background. I don't need to ask them no questions.
I would. There's an argument behind that as well.
Yes,
you can save the Southern part.
But just sitting here and talking to you guys, and And when people say, you know, step into my shoes, I step into your shoes, because yeah, I got black friends. I'm not like I'm not racist. I got black friends, you know, I'm Latino, whatever. But we never really sit down and talk about. I don't mean it like that. I don't mean it like that. But what I'm trying to get at is like I never really sit with my friend and like what goes on with you, man? Like what's going on? You know, because no one ever does that. You know, they just hear, oh, you know, you're just an American citizen, but there's things that separate us, like color. You know, not necessarily in a positive way, because we're all diverse and yada yada. And like I said, I have friends, but I never sit down and say, hey man, like, you know, I've been hearing all about this stuff. Let me know, like, what's going on? How do you feel? Like, how do you feel being African American, being black? How do you feel? You know, what's going on here? Give me your perspective. And no one ever asks for perspective anymore. You know?
Yeah, but when the rubber meets the road and it really gets tough, and the police, the authorities involved, I'm no longer an American anymore.
Yeah,
I'm a black criminal, and that's the idea. And I think that it's that idea.
Yeah.
But see,
and then you got to start protesting that.
But saying stuff like that, like, if as soon as a cop's involved and whatnot, and you're saying, I'm just a black man, I gotta make myself look like the most innocent person ever. When you put yourself in that mindset, you're gonna give off a vibe.
Well, because you're gonna get hit by the situation either way.
If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear, you shouldn't have to worry at all.
Well, neither did he though.
But the reaction,
but the reaction is different because you know what goes on, and no matter how you how much you comply,
it can still
your life is basically dependent upon the temperament of that particular police officer that's in front of you. And my life should not be in the balance based on that cop's temperament, whether he just found out that his wife just was fucking around with his partner.
Yeah,
that's not my problem.
Let's just say, for instance, in my situation where he had pulled out the gun and had it right there, me being black, and I'd done this, I'm about to do something right now, and that thing is to go, hey man, what's your problem? Let's just say I would have done that, which is not that does not constitute for someone shooting me or even tasering me, but just being like, hey man, what's your problem? If I was a white dude, it would have been like, "Hey man, come on, just calm it down." Versus being black, it might have been different. It would have been a different reaction. And I've seen that happen before. It's happened to me in my life.
Yeah, and like I was telling you, it's all about why does it lead up to that? Why did he have the gun in hand in the first place? Why was that the situation?
I think media.
Well, I'm not saying you, cause I'm just saying
it's the subconscious. It's the subconscious guilt is the is the root.
Yeah.
Now no one will ever admit that.
Yeah.
But to me, it's the subconscious guilt that they're feeling, and then it's also the stereotypes that have been basically compounded on top of that, and that feeds the narrative that blacks are to be feared, and that they are criminals, and that anyone who is not is an exception, and I think that's the narrative that has to start getting erased.
You think media has like a part to play in that, like rap music videos or like I know this sounds completely stupid for anybody that plays video games, but you play Final Fantasy 7?
I haven't played Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
you played Final Fantasy 7, right?
Final Fantasy 7 was the best one.
Other than the Gold Chocobo, you always pick the black one, right? Because it's a little faster, it's a little stronger. It can go through the water and through the mountains. You know what I mean? It's kind of like,
if you want to talk about look at the Power Rangers,
the Black Power Ranger, was he a good guy, right?
But I'm saying like it's like associating things like the Yellow Ranger was an Asian woman, the Pink Ranger was a girl, the Red Ranger was a Native American, the White Ranger was a
real?
dude.
Yeah, no, that was.
Oh no way!
You're talking about the original one. They changed it. They changed it with the new one.
The black guy was the Black Ranger. That went on for years.
That's crazy.
Not until like Jungle Fury, where they replaced the Native American with a white dude, and they were like,
well, he became the leader Ranger. Yeah, and it was the white guy.
Yeah, like
I'm looking at you, Rangers. Shame on you.
But it was like early 90s.
Yeah.
When kids watch that, it's like stereotyping 101.
And it's
the Asian one is the yellow one.
Yeah. And it's the combination of disconnect between ideas and what you're saying, like with the whole smothering Black Lives Matter, and the whole what we're already like kind of fed idea, the jokes that we make and kind of what's on TV, like the Chappelle things, because it's based on reality. And then when it comes to things like, for example, Kaepernick taking a knee. He may be, portraying a certain idea, but, people start, booing and hollering and this and that, and it's this whole disconnect. Like, well, the idea is can you protest the national anthem? And
you can.
We can segue into that, yes. Right? We can
segue into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, definitely. Like with Colin Kaepernick, it's very controversial because you have a lot of. I mean, it's funny though. Us people that kind of do support that, we have family members that are all in the military. You know what I mean?
My dad was in the military.
Right.
I myself am joining.
Right. Oh, you're joining. You know what I mean? So
it's
just interesting because I don't think Colin Kaepernick, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he ever said anything against anything in the military. Like, I really don't think...
He never did.
It's not that.
It's the police, right?
He wants to do it against police brutality because he feels as if, as a black man in America, with the whole police brutality thing, he feels like there's institutional racism. The reason being that people are talking about the military and whatnot is because our soldiers go on the front lines and they die for your right to stand there and protest. Now, whether you choose to agree with it or not, like me personally, I don't agree with his kneeling for the flag, and that's me personally. But I understand why he does it. I understand that he wants to protest it, and I understand why he feels like crimes against blacks are unjustified, or he feels a certain way, and I get that. But I also and the parts that piss me off is he does kneel for the flag. He doesn't stand up for the national anthem and whatnot. And as me, I don't like that. But I understand why. And the argument is like, that's disrespectful to those troops. Well, those same troops that he may be disrespecting died so that he can do that, so that he can make people think about what they're doing and can let them do that.
I have a quick question before Rob goes. Real quick, I never, when I went to do the national anthem since 2004, when I realized everything about 9/11, I never put my hand on my heart ever, and I go to so many.
National elementary school, they didn't make you do that. No?
I was still standing up, but I never put my hand on my heart.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, but no, that's a pledge.
Not national anthem.
Hey, quick question. I think there was a photo out there of Colin Kaepernick wearing socks that were like cops or pigs. Is that a thing? Was that a thing?
He weren't doing practice.
Was it? What year was that? That was last year, right?
That was the 2016 season. That was his last season.
Oh, because he's out now, right? He's done.
He didn't play. He didn't play any time this year.
Oh man, that's crazy. But like, you guys were you had something to say. So he was talking about the protests and the first idea is the troops. You know, and that's what comes.
And he's bringing up on the screen, and I'm pretty well versed with this because I've studied a lot of it. You know, and we talk about the kneeling. And I think a lot of people forget, and you talk about, you know, you wanted to join the military and how that you feel like the soldiers were disrespected.
Well, I'm saying that's what people say. And
right.
Personally, yes, I feel as if it is a disrespect towards the troops, but I can't really go, how dare he? Because those same troops that he's disrespecting and to other people that they think he's disrespecting, they die so that he can do that. You don't have to agree with it, but I also respect it. Like, okay, I don't agree with it in any way. I don't agree with it all, but I respect. He has the right to do it. It is his First Amendment, it's his freedom of speech, and I can respect it. But I don't have to agree with it.
So we're talking about.
Well, I think that the idea of agreeing that's your option as a man, as a human being.
It's the respect factor.
But I don't think at the same time we can also talk about tangible facts and talking about actual disrespecting. Now, if we're kind of looking on the screen. You know, the guy to his left, is Nate Boyer, who's a military veteran. My question is, does anybody really know whose idea it was to kneel? Because it wasn't Colin Kaepernick's. If anybody remembers, you can actually go back to the end of the 2015 season. He was sitting down way before then, but it got no coverage. Then the start of the 2016 season, it's the preseason. He's sitting down. They noticed it during one of the games, and he got asked about it after in the locker room. And not once did he bring up this is against veterans. Not once did he bring up this is against the military or anti, Army, Marines, Navy. None of that. He made a very clear and concise statement about why he was sitting down. The man that's in the picture is Green Beret Nate Boyer.
To his left?
Correct.
The one standing.
He reached out to Colin Kaepernick and expressed, kind of similar to what you just expressed, how he felt by Colin sitting down. Colin had him come out and they actually met, had a long discussion. Out of that discussion, a compromise was met. That instead of him sitting down, he will kneel on the field with his teammates because that is a sign of respect, especially dealing with the military, kneeling like when they present a flag because someone has died.
Of course.
That's the compromise that a military veteran like Nate Boyer reached, and that's why he respects Colin Kaepernick, his stance, and what he's fighting for, and what he's trying to bring awareness to. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about protest is supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a comfortable protest, because if it's comfortable protest, it wasn't a protest to begin with. The protest is supposed to make you pick sides. Mm-hmm. His stance, in this case, of Neil, is bringing awareness and getting people to talk about it now. And this has been my opinion this entire football season, because I love football. Yeah. I watch the NFL all the time. I'm a Niner fan myself. It's difficult to see that he's not on a team, but I'm starting to come to the realization that he's actually coming into his own calling. I feel like he's realizing that he's can do something bigger, because he's putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
How much donations, how much money, how much resources he's donated. He's not fronting this idea.
He's paying it forward, man.
Exactly. So when people say that he's anti-American or that he's disrespecting the flag, which we can get into a little bit more, especially dealing with the national anthem. Yeah. Because a lot of people who wrote the national anthem, Francis Scott Key, who was a slave owner and a racist, who poemed that. Yeah. And then now what's in the national anthem that we play today, there's been taken out the third stanza, which talks about slaves. Yeah. So that whole national anthem that was even written wasn't talking about me or Kaepernick or anybody that looks like us. So for him to come to the realization to say, you know what, this military veteran comes to me, I hear what he's saying, and I develop a compromise. Yet that's not good enough, because the media and the majority of America want to change the narrative and want to make it against military, against veterans, which is not the narrative. And that's not the message he's trying to put forward, and not the awareness that he's trying to bring light to.
And if I could chime in, last year, Kaepernick thing, he's kneeling. The first reaction, gut instinct, he's disrespecting people. And I got that blunt, like he's disrespecting people. But I never knew why he was kneeling. You just explained. I never knew that. And the thing is, you're right. People just kind of make these assumptions and throw this and that out, and it's about, how dare he disrespect the troops? What does he think about the troops?
It wasn't even his idea.
Yeah, and
that's what's crazy about it.
And the cops thing is a different idea, because that's what he's meaning. But I never knew that.
He was actually sitting down from 2014.
I never
2015 into 2015. Yeah. But it didn't get in cover. Nobody noticed it. I don't think nobody noticed it. I think, and even if they did, I think they were looking at it from a perspective of, maybe he's just sitting down, whatever the case may be. Yeah. Until that reporter asked him, then he decided, because that's what everybody's trying to make it seem. The circus trying to say he bringing all the attention to him.
Has the views, man.
He wasn't. He didn't say call a press conference. Yeah. They asked him in the locker room about it. Yeah. And then he said, I feel like that the flag that's supposed to represent justice for all, the police are not operating under that same moral compass. Yeah. And that I am going to sit down for this anthem, which he did his research on. Yeah. And knows its true history.
It is.
As far as the national anthem's concerned, especially when we start dealing with the words and the actual language of it and who wrote it. Yeah. A lot of people don't know this, but that's the beauty of him doing what he did, because that got people to be educated exactly on what that's about. Yeah. So when I hear that, that's how I look at it. And to be honest with you, we're speaking about it in hindsight. We're speaking about it in the now, because we're in the present.
It's over.
I believe that by the end of this, probably about a decade or two from now, we're going to be looking at Colin Kaepernick's stance the same way we look at Muhammad Ali's stance, or Gandhi's stance, or any of these guys who took a stance, Rosa Parks. I think you're going to start looking at it in that light, based on what he had to sacrifice. He left $16 million on the table.
Yeah, and
he could have not played that 2016 season and collected $16 million. He decided to waive that, to go out there and play, because he wanted to show that he could still play, which he did, because the statistics showed that he could. Yeah. He literally could be the backup for any NFL football team, and he could be the starter for half the league. Yeah. Based on his stats alone. Yeah. But everybody wants to put the narrative that he's a horrible quarterback. That's not that's the reason why he's on the team. And they're trying to ignore the fact of the reason why his stance is the main reason why he's not on a football team right now.
It's the frustration of when that first happened, you saw people like burning his jersey and shit, but those people, like myself, when you first hear about it, they didn't know what was going on. You know, like all they saw was Kaepernick is kneeling, therefore he's doing it, and it's a miscommunication. Mm-hmm. And you know, when I was first learning about it, my first instinct was like, well, that's a douchey thing to do, because you know, as any other person would think, yeah, you know, the flag is there, people died for it, you respect it, you have the right not to, but people are going to be annoyed at you, you know, and that's the thing.
You're going to get judged for it.
But like the more you're talking about it, and the more you know, you kind of explain the history and why he's doing it and what's going on. It's more compassionate. Like I don't think he should have been like run off the field and like not have a job anymore. He's gone.
To me, to be honest with you, I think I'll look at it now because I do think it's a bad look, but I think it's better for him.
Yeah, and
I think he's doing something that's much more greater. I think he's found a better calling for himself, and I wish him the best. Yeah. And he's got a lot of like right now because I follow him on social media. Mm-hmm. He's raised so much money here. All these athletes and celebrities are donating $10,000, $20,000 a pop to different charities. He gave all that water and food to Somalia. Like it's a lot of things that he's done, and he does not have the money backing him. That's what the thing. He's not playing football. That money is not going to be there forever.
Yeah.
He gave up $16 million. You don't think he could have used that $16 million right now to fund some charity? So he took that sacrifice.
Yeah.
When people say that he took the easy way out, or he was, basically because I know there was a quarterback controversy between him and Blaine Gabbert at the time, as far as being the starter on the team, and they were saying because he was the backup, this is what was trying to bring attention to him. But nobody would sacrifice that type of money and go through this type of hell just to make it. Yeah. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I think his, I never know a man's heart, but based on his actions, it shows that he's going in the right direction, and it's not about him. He's trying to bring awareness to a much more serious issue. Yeah. That because the biggest thing that would come out of people's mouths is, what is he complaining about? He's never faced oppression. He's a millionaire throwing a football around, like people like Tommy Lauren and Bill O'Reilly would say.
Yeah, I love Tommy Lauren.
And basically, they would say this, and that saying he's a spoiled brat and he's making all this money, he doesn't face discrimination. He's not talking about himself. He's talking about other people who don't have the voice, and he's using his platform to do that. Mm-hmm. When we start talking about the veterans and saying the ones that are disrespected, I've had conversations with multiple veterans, and I will tell you right now, the majority, I've only had a few that actually felt like they were disrespected themselves.
Yeah.
Everybody else feels like, no, man, he's doing what we go out there and fight for. And to me, I think it's the fake patriotism that makes it where the anthem, which to me, I don't even stand for, but makes it where it's above reproach, which it is not. And I think because a lot of people need to do their research, especially dealing with the national anthem and the NFL in general.
Yeah.
The NFL and the U.S. military have a contract to actually televise the national anthem being sung and the players actually putting their hand over their chest and standing. Mm-hmm. That's basically a funnel and a tool to create recruitment.
That was in 2009, right?
Yeah.
Was that?
Into the military.
They never used to show it.
They never used to show it before.
That's crazy. Wow.
But they started showing it because now they have a contract. So that's the reason why the NFL pressed so hard against him, because they did not want to mess up that money.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is, I think, the bigger issue that nobody really talks about. And this what's funny about this coverage, this is not conspiracy talk. This has actually been on sports talk shows such as ESPN First Take and FS1 Undisputed.
Yeah.
They have actually talked about this, that, in 2009, they didn't have this, and that they have a contract where money is exchanged in televising these acts of patriotism, which, to me, I kind of laugh at. And I don't laugh at the patriotism. I laughed at the illusion of it. I laugh at the fact that the people that come up in arms that are so upset with Kaepernick or anyone else that kneels or is taking this stand, yet you're not at home watching this game on your couch, standing up, putting your hand over your chest. Even the ones who fight, even ones who fought in the war aren't doing that. They're chilling, doing what I'm doing right now.
Drinking a beer. How dare you sit there during the national anthem?
And then they and then they wear it. And then they, to me, if you want to go get technical, they say you should never wear the American flag. It should never be a piece of garment.
It's in the Constitution.
But they got it: hats, T-shirts, people sleeping in them, whatever the case may be.
Girls in
But
bikinis.
nobody talks about that.
Mm.
And nobody talks about that. So I think it's a lot of hypocrisy that goes around.
Yeah.
And I think especially dealing with Colin Kaepernick, he has become the scapegoat of this bigger issue.
Yeah.
And it's the narrative, and what I keep saying and I keep talking about, and I won't never stop talking about it,
Yeah.
is the idea that no one wants to have the real conversation. The reason why the narrative keeps changing is because if they were actually having to talk about the issues that Colin Kaepernick is trying to bring awareness to, that's where things are going to get real uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to have to start taking accountability. And
Yeah.
nobody wants to take accountability to make things better. They just kind of want it to go away.
Yeah.
And that's what the NFL is kind of taking on it, because they don't want to be associated with it. They know it's a monetary game.
Yeah.
It's all predicated on what cash is coming in. Owners have already come out and said the reason why they don't want to, and some of them have been somewhat truthful, and I give them that, is that they didn't want to bring Colin Kaepernick on, not because of his play, but because how much division it would cause with their fan base by bringing him on. So I think
it's money is a thing.
right, and I think that's the bigger issue. But
it's under the guise of patriotism, is that's what you're
right,
like.
and I think it's a lot of fake patriotism. I think a lot of people fake that to me.
Yeah, and it's not fair when companies do that. I believe like especially like in a different circumstance, not just. And this happens everywhere. Like, for example, you guys remember when the Chick-fil-A owner was like, I don't support gay marriage, or like the gay marriage thing? Right after
that chicken sandwich is mean, man. That's hard. Even if I was gay, I'd be like, man.
But like right after,
I'm only going to go to y'all once a month. Now, but I'm not even.
But like, I'm about to go swing by
that chicken sandwich is too good.
It's way too good.
So after that, right, they were like, the guy's like, I don't support, the whole legalizing gay marriage thing. What happened right after that? You had Doritos, you had Oreos, come out with all these rainbow LGBT.
It's monetary.
Food. And it was like,
fake
we support gay people, we support come LGBT.
Yeah.
And they sold it for like a week, and they made millions.
Yep, fake
they
support.
made millions. Because they don't care what that. If tomorrow, 9 out of 10 people in this country were Klansmen, you know who's going to be in those commercials? Dudes with hoods. Because who are you selling to? You're selling to Klansmen.
You're going to sell to the majority.
And that's the problem. And it gets even worse when you put it under the guise of patriotism.
I knew they wasn't gonna beat Chick-fil-A, man. They ain't even open 7 days a week.
Chick-fil-A.
And they still killing the game.
You
ain't beating that machine, man. I'm sorry.
Every Sunday.
That spicy deluxe is too bomb.
So you're from Louisiana, right?
No, I went to school.
You ever had Bojangles?
Briefly.
I never had Bojangles.
Yeah, the chicken. Yeah.
Is that actually good? I never had Bojangles.
It's good. It's good chicken.
Yeah.
I'm a Popeyes man. If I had to choose.
Okay.
Yo.
This dude maybe miss a train because of Popeyes. Okay.
But it's good. It's good chicken. I can tell you right now that the name Bojangles for that chicken place has probably got to be the most racist name for a chicken spot. Bojangles is a tap dancer.
Fuck.
He said,
"Damn, Bojangles."
It's like, who knows that?
I don't care if it's racist. It's delicious.
You know what else racist? You know what else racist? Aunt Jemima. Because who's Uncle Tom's wife? Aunt Jemima. Who's sitting on the bottle?
Y'all making me hungry right now.
I know. Yeah. Who's sitting on the bottle all fat and happy, sitting in a nice little house with an apron and a little, a little towel head? Aunt Jemima. Right. What's she doing? She's making you some pancakes.
Right.
What's going on with that? No one talks about that either,
Yeah, Miss Butterworth.
Miss Butterworth. She's the other thing. She's the one that owns the house, but Jemima's there making the pancakes. You feel me?
Miss Butterworth got hips though.
Yeah.
Miss Butterworth got some butt to work.
Yeah, that butter, it's thick. You feel me? In two senses.
I can't believe how we went. I can't believe we went from Colin Kaepernick to
syrup and chicken, man.
Hell yeah.
See,
you can't
chicken
go
and
wrong.
waffles already.
But I can, and me being initially when I initially heard the news of Kaepernick, kneeling and the whole thing, the first thing I thought was, oh man, that's gross. Like he can do it.
It's gross.
like
gross.
I was like, you can do it, but I'm kind of disgusted, appalled. But that's because I didn't know much about why exactly. Because people would just say, oh, he's protesting, and no one would talk about it, but didn't explain why he was kneeling. Who he was talking to.
Well, the media didn't put it out there.
I was the complete opposite. I saw that he did it, and I knew immediately that it was a protest because clearly you don't go, I'm just not gonna get up for it. Either you sit down or you're gonna say the whole thing. So I knew for a fact it was gonna be a protest. Yeah. But I waited until information came out, till he said what he was going to say, until everyone got their coverage in. and found what sources were the most reliable. Once I found the information, I came to my conclusion whether I disagreed or agreed with it. And once again, I see both sides of the situation. I see the people who tune in to watch a football game here and there, and they see Colin Kaepernick and it's on their favorite team, and he's kneeling, and they can feel disrespected. It's like, you live in America, you live in the most freest country in the world, and you're kneeling for the flag, which that's their opinion because they don't know the full story behind it. But I also see the point of view where people are saying, like, don't kneel for anything, or don't stand for anything, everything sucks, and it's just extremists or people it boils down to either extremists or ignorant people that don't know what's going on, or they know what's going on, but they're going to take things to the extreme that's just going to ruin it and give a bad image to everything else. That's what it boils down to. Either you're ignorant because you don't know what you're talking about, you're just trying to talk out of your ass, or you know what you're talking about and you're trying to focus on one specific thing, but there are these people that are extreme and are ruining the concept that you're trying to talk about.
There's one thing that I rarely say that I don't usually, because it's kind of a scapegoat, but for this case, Colin Kaepernick, he got set up by the system. Because I'm going to say for him, because the NFL, the false patriotism, because he was being divisive. The media, which he never tried to go out to in the first place, they reached to him and they grabbed onto something. And as soon as they had it, they went with it. They drove a narrative.
And they drove a certain narrative
and
that
they know it's going to get them tons of money. And
I rarely ever think that way because I feel it's more like a scapegoaty kind of thing. But in that case, Colin Kaepernick, he got played. He was a scapegoat.
And I think he looks at it.
And the fact that he's going out to Somalia giving money, and he could have had more, but he decided to stand with his values and his ideas, which is the most American thing you can do out there. He's suffering for it, and he's trying to help people. And
I don't. To me, at this point, I don't necessarily think, and I don't know the man, personally, but I don't think he's suffering anymore himself in his heart as far as what he's doing. I think he's suffering in the sense of what he sees other people who look like him, and like us, are going through, and have to endure on a day-to-day basis. That is what he's suffering about, and that's what he's heard about. But I believe his circumstance now, and I think he's come to that realization just based on his actions. That yes, I think if an NFL team hit him up, yes, I think he'd want to play. But I think he's also come to the realization that I think he's found something that he's better at. Or feels like his soul is connected to, which I'm not saying he wouldn't want to play football, because from what I've seen him in a couple videos. He's still in shape.
He's going for it, but there's some,
and he's not like out of shape, thin. He looks still like he's still working out.
I've never been a football fan. I'm the guy who hops on to see the Super Bowl and cheers for whatever team.
He was laughing at Tom Brady's tears.
Everybody's against Tom Brady.
I'm sorry, but I hate Tom Brady.
I think the majority of America except New England was an Eagles fan for one day. It's like I was so happy for Philly, like I was from Philly. I was like, man.
Damn, man.
I'm about to eat me a cheesesteak, Philly cheesesteak, right after this Super Bowl. Good job, guys. Straight up.
Like I said, I don't really watch football and stuff, but I've seen Colin Kaepernick play on certain YouTube clips and stuff. That dude can play. That dude can throw. That guy can run. He can do his job, and he does it well.
It takes balls to stand up to a system that's already telling you to stop it and give up what you've got and what you're good at, to follow a passion you feel is more important.
Exactly.
And you got to commend him for that at least.
Exactly. That's what it boils down to when I said that I don't have to agree with the message, but I can respect him. I can respect him for doing what he's doing. I can respect him for that sort of stuff.
And if it wasn't for that NFL kind of like system and the whole media thing kind of drumming that up, he wouldn't be in this bad of a situation now.
No, because they basically attached to it and they basically ran with the narrative, and that's kind of where we're at right now. And I feel like he's the casualty in this. But I think also what's getting lost too is, and I feel like we as Americans, we fall for this, and now I'm getting into a much more broader sense.
The patriotism?
No, bigger than that is the
mega patriotism.
Is the concept of dealing with the issue that's at hand. To me, racism is a subcontext of the real problem, which is greed and greedy people. To me, racism is just a tool that's used to divide to reach that goal. And I'll say this all the time. This world is always going to be filled with a small group of motherfuckers that always want to have more than the rest of the group of motherfuckers.
Looking at you,
And
Soros.
it's always about that. Race to me is just that subcontext to keep that thing going.
Yeah.
Because when I think about what happened with the NFL this year, it was kind of a epidemic that was happening. More people were kneeling. More people were coming to the aid of Colin Kaepernick and in this case, not standing up for him, but kneeling in protest. Mm-hmm. And I think the owners in the NFL started understanding it and said, okay, we need to do something. So in that Monday night game, I remember it was Dallas against Arizona, and Jerry Jones was one of the owners. He said, who's the owners of the Cowboys.
Fired, right?
Exactly.
Anybody who kneels gets fired.
So he said that about 2 weeks before this game.
Yeah.
And he ended up going ahead and kneeling with the players before the flag, and then they all stood up after. Mm-hmm. To me, that was the most asinine bullshit that I ever saw, because I looked at that and was like, and it was this what it was the response to. It was response to Trump's response to this, what was going on with the NFL. And this all, and as far as what Trump's concerned, he's more pissed. He's pissed off at the NFL just because they didn't allow him to own a team way back when. When he tried to buy the Buffalo Bills, he was like, "No, fuck you guys. I don't like you anyway. So I'm gonna say this."
Was that AFL? Was that? Or was it USFL? It was USFL.
Right.
USFL. He had like a couple teams that didn't work out, but.
He was trying. I know he was trying to buy the Buffalo Bills. I remember that. And that I think that was a bigger thing for him and more personal. And I think everybody did what they did to kind of combat Trump. And then the police brutality, the social injustices got lost. The message got lost. And I think it's still getting lost to a certain extent because now people are starting to forget about it. A lot of people aren't as uncomfortable anymore. It's kind of being the norm. And that's one of the reasons, and I told Tony this actually after we got done watching the game. Yeah. I said I was actually happy because one of the guys who actually had been kneeling through the whole season, along with Kaepernick and stuff like that, through this whole year, this 2016, he just got a Super Bowl ring in Malcolm Jenkins. There you go. And like he played his ass off in this game, and like to me, a lot of that comes that's important, and I feel like I'm happy for him because a lot of guys have gotten ostracized who have their talent precedes them to the extent like the guys like Michael Bennett and stuff like that who's on the Seattle Seahawks. Their value is so high that it would be too obvious to ostracize them. But there's guys like Antonio Cromartie who he was a cornerback. He was a Pro Bowl cornerback. Yeah. And he's no longer on the team because of his stance because what he did last year.
Valuable.
He wasn't as valuable in the sense of
like performance versus.
He was still a Pro Bowl corner, but he was worth losing based on that. So they basically scaled it. Okay, like is he good enough to go through all that trouble? Because there are players out there, who they give second, third, fourth chances because their talent is just out of this world.
Too much.
I'm telling you right now, if Tom Brady starts talking crazy outside of his neck, he motherfuckers saying shit.
No, because
his play is too great to kick him out.
Like if you started nailing the next day,
they're gonna be like, well,
if everything go upside down.
You know, Tom.
We respect that, Tom.
You know what, man? You're a stand-up guy,
and it's just it's like how far you go, because like Kaepernick probably could have reeled it back, but he stood his ground, and because the infection went too far up the arm, the NFL had to cut it off.
He was the first
because it was gonna get to the second.
And they always say this: the first one through the wall is always bloody. Mm-hmm. And he's that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna shoehorn something that we talked about like 8 minutes ago before we started talking about the football players because no, not Bojangles. That was like 15 minutes ago.
The Butterworth hits.
You were talking about how racism is used to divide us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask. Did you see the music video that Jordan Lucas put out?
I'm not racist.
That I'm not racist.
You guys watch that rap?
That's a really good one.
I'll say this: I couldn't even watch the whole thing.
Oh, what?
So I was like when I saw it, and then this was the thing. So I actually seen people's reactions to it. Yeah. Before I actually saw the whole video.
So you already were like,
I started to play it, and I heard what he was saying, so I already knew where he was going. Yeah. I already knew what idea he was going to.
No.
I want to
You have that?
I just
They
want to real
went
quickly
deeper.
quote the. It gets really, really deep. So basically, like the whole.
They got
concept-
irritating in the beginning.
Well, in the beginning, yeah.
You'll see, like, it's wow.
So
Yeah.
what the whole concept was like, the rapper Jordan Lucas, who's he's sort of light skinned. He's maybe around the same skin tone as you. His whole premise was that he made this video to show that you can have your extreme views on something, and you can assume everything, like how we've been talking about how people just assume and bring everything together, and how it all boils down to just sitting down and talking it out. And when you brought up the fact that racism divides us, at the end of the video, comes up with the title card, and the title card says, "It's I'll let you see it at the very end."
I'll be right back. 1 second, guys. You're gonna watch the video though?
When you come back, we'll turn it
No,
on.
you go for it. I've already seen it.
Well, we can keep talking about it.
Well,
Yeah, you don't keep talking about it. It's cool.
I did have one question though.
Yes.
This kind of goes back to the whole kneeling thing on a disrespectful side when it's being seen as disrespectful. That's the only part that I have kind of trouble with. You can just move the light and go around the side. Yeah.
Very cool.
Go ahead and move it, babe. The way.
Having technical difficulties.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm causing a problem.
No, you're good.
Stop breaking things.
So I noticed that Robin mentioned something that when people were kneeling, so Kaepernick took his knee, you saw it disrespectful. So what do you see about those people who came to his aid to kneel as well? How did you see those people?
Me personally,
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's disrespectful.
Okay.
Because I grew up, my most of my family has been military, stretching all the way back to the Civil War. Civil War, they were part of the Union, and then World War One, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, basically every major conflict that the United States has been a part of. I've had families stretched all across branches and fighting
This
for
is a
that.
totally different podcast, but you feel that every single one of those wars is completely justified and true, and we were on the side of morality, right?
No, it's in the sense that I've had, like I said, I have family members, and I know a lot of military people, and that when they go out there, they die and lose their lives. Like, and I'm going to use this is the most quotable thing people always say, but look at all the 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds that were drafted in, and their first mission was being dropped on the beaches of Normandy, invading France to open up another front so that we can push the Nazis and everything back into Germany. They didn't get to live. They got to turn 18, become an adult, get shipped off halfway across the world just to get shot within the first 10 seconds. 9 months or whatever, how many months of training, depending on what branch they were in. Army's 9, Marines is 13. I think the Navy is, I'm gonna say 8 or 7. I'm not entirely sure about the rest. But all the months of training, being told that you're going out there and and being told that you're probably going to die on this mission alone, that freaks a lot of people out. And then they go out there and then, I'm going to use a movie as an example. Saving Private Ryan. When the things dropped, when the boats dropped and everything started up, and the bullets immediately started hitting all of them, all those people, just think about the fact that in real life, that actually happened. Those things dropped. The MG-42 started lighting them up. And all those people who grew up, had plans of becoming successful or having a family or anything, were just taken in the blink of an eye. And in the long run, those people died so that you and I and all of us can sit here talking about what's going on in our country now.
So that's the part I got to stop you on, because they didn't do that for me.
Well,
the black people that fought, they didn't, because the black people that fought in those wars fought against those people, the POWs, the prisoners of war, that got brought over, got better liberties than black people in their own country that they was fighting for. So when black people ended up coming back, they still had to go to the back of the restaurant to go eat.
Well, that you're just,
so they didn't. So when you say that they were fighting for me, they damn sure wasn't fighting for me.
I'm not saying you specifically or Black Central. I'm saying they died so that you can have the right to talk about these issues. They died for you to actually. Would you rather have those people die, come back, deal with the segregation, and then fight against that segregation, have the civil rights movement go on, and then continue to live it out? Or would you rather be speaking German right now?
Well, it's not about rather, but it's all about more. It's all about the moral motivation. When we speak on that, I can speak of two evils, and then I have to choose the least. That's basically what you just posed to me, is choosing the lesser of evils. Me speaking German, or me basically having to not basically have to fight two wars.
Right.
I got to fight for the country of, I'll say this, the country of the white man who took this country over, and then actually didn't have to fight for my equality back when I get home from just fighting that war and losing my life.
But on the front line, those soldiers didn't see race. They saw brotherhood. They fought together.
No, and definitely I think that's true.
My basic premise was all those people died, and in the long run, it was to fight against Nazis coming in. World War II. I was using World War II as an example, but
That's a good example.
But all those people died, and in the long run, we didn't get taken over by any other country. We still have our liberties, and we had our people on the home front fighting against segregation.
Now that one I would say we were fighting for freedom, but that's where I'm questioning. But what is freedom like when you're saying we're fighting for freedom?
I would say what we have.
We damn sure ain't fighting for freedom now.
That's why
I would rather say we're fighting for freedom then instead of being sent into a cage and being lit on fire because you're slightly darker than the average white person. I would say that's not freedom.
I see the disagreement here. I get what's going on, last two evils, but we're dealing with here now. And like, okay, for example,
and I'm saying like all the people that have died and the soldiers that we have.
And that's
I'm
important.
saying to me, that's disrespectful, and I don't have to agree with it. But people don't have to agree with me.
It, right? What you're saying.
We live in America, and the whole point of this is that we have different ideologies, and the whole point is we talk to each other.
And you've said that the whole time, but you wouldn't disagree that you can kneel for the anthem. You can't.
Oh,
yeah.
You can kneel for it.
I don't think there's anybody taking the stance that you can't kneel.
Yeah.
I think the conversation that is being missed is whether it's right or not.
Dismissed.
And it's not only being dismissed, but the word you're choosing to use, and this is the reason why I think Tony brought it up, but I'm bringing it up again, is the word disrespectful. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a very tangible word. There's one thing to say that you don't agree, or you're saying for yourself you would not exercise the same actions that Kaepernick and other people are doing. Mm-hmm. But when people use the word disrespectful, that is putting it in a very negative light. And to me, I think that's staining what he's doing. Well, because when you say the word disrespectful, when you got the Green Beret veteran whose idea it was the one who created to kneel.
It can be his idea.
So is he being disrespectful to his own troops and himself? He's disrespecting himself.
One person can't decide what other people think.
We're making so much progress.
If he can say that it's his idea for Colin Kaepernick to kneel, I still don't have to say that I find it okay. I still think it's disrespectful to all the soldiers that died, but they die so that he has the right to do that. That's what my basic premise is.
Let me jump in here. I'm going to be the buffer. First of all, we've beaten that idea to the ground. That we get that part. That's over.
Well, we got the opinion. Yeah, I think we all understand the opinion.
But look, I'm going to be the buffer here. But what are we disagreeing on? I'm not sure because we both.
Well, the part that I'm disagreeing on, and the part that I'm trying to get across is the word disrespectful.
It can be negative, yeah.
Because when you say that it's disrespectful, and it's disrespectful how you mentioned it, you said because the soldiers that have died.
Yeah.
So you don't think it's disrespectful for the human beings that have died at police's hands, or not just have died, have basically been attacked and brutalized.
But we're not discussing that. We're discussing.
But we are, because that is the reason why Kaepernick is kneeling. So when you say,
when it comes to the national anthem and the flag, I relate it to the soldiers.
But that's not what he's talking
about.
So what about
he can relate to that, but he asked me.
So what about the origin of the national anthem?
Yeah, so we discussed in that how it was made by an old angry racist and how we had to revise it and take out the part that was racist about. We already talked about this.
So you still think even though it was revised, you think it's okay that needs to be played in front of everybody?
Never said that. I said when it comes to that, people who sit or kneel, I think it's disrespectful. That's just me. That's how I was raised, and I've already explained this.
Why are we still?
So we could take the origin out of that because that's okay because maybe it means something different now, right? To the soldiers that go, into the military, because it is different for them now. It's a different generation now. They're going into the military. That's where I get confused again, though, because I understand what you're saying. That makes complete sense. Right. But I'm even going into the fact of saying that they're fighting for our freedom. That's where I'm confused about. They're fighting for our freedom right now. I'm really confused about that.
It's a patriotic kind of idea.
Right. I think it's a sense of nationalism almost, where it's just too much. no, this is America, red, white, and blue. Like, it's almost like, wait, okay. Because I just say this because I have family members that are in the military. One of them kept me out of the Marines. I literally was supposed to go.
My dad was in the Air Force, and he told me not to get in the military.
Not to get into the military.
Based on
we are killing people.
certain reasons, and that we're no longer at war for freedom.
No.
And we haven't been
The
for a long
military-industrial
time.
complex does it for profit.
17,
We are in it for corporations. We are fighting for banks and
it's
other
also
interests.
past wars. Past conflicts.
Yeah, I agree with that. World War II is a good example.
And
Because
like
that's
America,
the kind of thing. Germany's trying to take over the world and get racial purification. They're trying to enforce their ideologies on other countries. I'm saying because when you left, that's what we were talking about.
Well, we were talking about like saying that by him kneeling is disrespectful. Yet,
and I was quoting soldiers that have died.
I want to hear Tony's.
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, okay, so is that your opinion?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
So that's what I want to stick on.
It boils down to
Yeah,
opinions.
so now we're getting to opinions, but then you also have to support your opinion.
Yeah, but like, okay, also you can take an opinion of what you like, but it's also what does he mean by behind the kneeling, and that's different.
Yes.
But and also what he was pointing out with the whole, fighting for freedom. People say we're
So
fighting for freedom.
I just because I want to clarify it.
with him.
So yeah, so you feel that kneeling or any type of protest
okay, perfect. That's what I was going. Yeah.
against the national anthem, against the flag, against that facade, that is above reproach. Regardless, that's basically what you're saying.
I'm saying
Not to Germany here in America now.
You can do it though. You're saying you can do it.
Well, no, he's not denying. I don't want to get back into
that's
that.
gone.
We've already. I don't. Not only him. I don't think anyone has ever said Colin Kaepernick or any other player cannot do it physically. Like, nope, you cannot do that. No one's ever said that.
Yeah.
No one's stupid enough to say that.
Yeah.
But the idea of agreeing, it's not about agreeing.
Yeah.
There's one thing to say I don't agree with it. That's not something I would do. But it's a whole nother thing entirely when you say that it's disrespectful.
to me,
and-
in my opinion, I find it disrespectful.
And that's where we need to get to. So you find it disrespectful. So you're saying that any type of protest against the establishment, in this case the national anthem, is above reproach. That's my question.
No, I don't think it is.
So are you telling me that there was a different way that Colin Kaepernick could have done it?
I guess. I mean, he could have just come out and said, "This is what I believe. I don't know. I want to agree with it." And like I said,
How many headlines would that have got?
depending
About this
on-
much.
Never had
So now we're dealing with the concept of comfortability, because it made people uncomfortable. That's why I feel like it's disrespectful, and to me, that's not good enough an excuse. That's my opinion. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's
It's
how you
also
feel,
good-
and how I feel.
It's also important to point out, like you said way earlier, is not even just the language you're using, because when you say something like, oh, that's disrespectful, it kind of implies this kind of connotation of negativeness and that you're incorrect for doing it,
Right.
which is like, I mean, I'll go with him saying like nobody says you can't do it, and when somebody kneels, like for me personally, it's like of course you can do it, me, I'm just like I would rather stand myself, personally, I'm not gonna knock you for it, but like a lot of people say, oh, but the troops and the freedom, but other people it's like, that's not the message we're against. So it's like because you're not against the troops dying. Like I know, they crossed the Delaware and people froze, in Valley Forge for us to have this now.
Fun fact: that painting he's facing the opposite way
That's funny.
of the actual thing. They're supposed to cross this way, instead he's crossing that way in the painting.
That's deep, fam. But like no one's like, I know people. There's troops that froze in Valley Forge, But then there's certain ideas like why are we in the Middle East, And it's like, what WMDs were there? And like like are we really fighting for freedom in that area? Like I get the whole defense of the world, but we're long past the idea of like, oh, we're fighting for our freedom. We got our freedoms,
and that's a
We
whole
got
nother.
that.
That's a
to me,
whole
that's a
other
whole
topic.
nother
That's why I also
discussion.
didn't want to bring it
Like
up.
because
Because like,
once
man,
we start getting to that, I can
Yeah.
start going in
Yeah.
about the whole.
Well,
To
the
me,
whole-
against the anti-Muslim
Yeah,
and
yeah.
trying to create the Muslim as the enemy, and we can get into all that.
Yeah, but the main idea we're trying to get at is
which I think is a bad narrative.
But the idea you're looking at is that because someone finds it disrespectful, therefore that anything against the establishment should that be seen as disrespectful in a negative way? Is that what you're asking him?
Yeah, because my question is, so I look at it this way. You say that, and this goes for anyone. I would ask anyone having the same sentiment that you had.
Yeah.
is how should someone having an issue with the protest that they're having this issue, how should they have gone about it? And it's funny.
They can take it whatever way they can approach it whatever way they want. I'm still gonna find it disrespectful because it's disrespecting the flag, it's disrespecting the national anthem, and to me, it disrespects the soldiers that have died for this country.
Real quick, so no one says anything else. So basically, when you say that, all you're saying is, I don't care what he has to say about whatever he's saying.
No, but like,
it's not that.
Okay, but
that's a straw man fallacy.
But what's going on with you is like we get along just fine. We agree on a lot of things, but like I just said, like sure somebody could kneel to the anthem, and then I think about the guys at Frozen Valley Forge, and I think about the guys that died, all in the fields in the 18th century. Yes. But like, that's not what I think he means, though. Like I get that, and I get
what his message is. I'm not denying it. I'm not
and
saying
you can find it disrespectful. That's
I'm
cool.
saying,
but
when
like,
someone disrespects the flag and the national anthem, I'm gonna find.
So how do you? Let me ask you this. I think we're getting there. We're almost getting there.
Yeah.
How do you feel he disrespected?
What's a good way of bringing up the idea?
Hold on. He asked him right now. How do you feel?
How do you feel he disrespected it?
He didn't stand up. That's to me. That's how I was raised. That's how.
So how do you define disrespect?
Okay.
Asking the real.
Because to me, the definition of disrespect would basically be anti-compromise, which is exactly what he did. He sat down to start off.
Yes.
And then a military veteran who expressed maybe similar to the way you're explaining how he felt.
Said have respect.
And said have respect. And they reached a compromise based on an action and an exercise of that action that displays respect and empathy for someone who dies. But yet that's still not good enough for you. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm not saying it's not good enough for me. I'm saying you standing for it, to me, that went down my entire. I did it my entire.
No. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. This is my thing. I get what you're saying, but you're saying that it's disrespectful. But you have to have a reason. Why is it disrespectful? What is the action of him doing? Because he went from sitting to kneeling. What is disrespectful about what he's doing to the military when he has not ever said anything against the military or the flag, except the fact that he feels like the police.
Nor did I ever say he was targeting the military.
I know you haven't said that, but I'm just saying, how is it disrespectful?
Why does he keep lapping around to the military veteran making a compromise?
No. But the idea is that
we're still trying to get the understanding. Okay, for me, anyway, is the disrespectful.
I'm going to try to phrase it how I think you're saying it, so we can get it clear. So the idea is, it's not about the disrespected soldiers. Some people might believe that, but that's not what he means. But the problem is, if you believe that that's disrespectful, then what would be the proper way of bringing up that issue? You mean like in against the establishment is what you're saying?
I mean, I'm saying it like this. It's kind of shortened it up.
Yeah.
You're saying it's disrespectful. You gave the reasons why I have not necessarily. Sure. You said that the reasons that you feel this way is because soldiers have died for this country, and that flag represents this country, and that song represents this country, and you should be made to stand, or that you should stand.
You should stand for it. Not you should be made to. No, you should.
And that doing anything other than that is disrespectful.
Yeah.
That to me is where we're having the issue, because that being disrespectful to them would mean I'm coming out and saying I'm being disrespectful to you. I'm not being disrespectful to a military veteran, nor does Green Beret Nate Boyer feel that way, amongst millions of other veterans, past and present, don't feel that way. But I'm having a hard time understanding why you feel it's disrespectful. We can always come to agreement or disagreement of his actions.
Other people can be okay with it, but me personally, I don't have to be.
Well, no, I think that's where we're missing it. The difference between being okay and the difference between it being disrespectful. If you came out and said, I'll put it to you like this. If you came out and said, you know what, I'm just not okay with that. That's not what I would have done. I don't necessarily agree with that. But you're using the word specifically disrespectful. And I think that's the word we're trying to define. But you're not explaining how.
We're reaching the impasse where we have the belief, and the challenge is just, it's not come in here, but like I kind of get what he's saying. You know, I'm getting the whole like what really is behind the word disrespect, like, because it's a negative thing when you say disrespect, and it's like. Like what he just said made total sense to me. You can say I wouldn't have done that versus disrespect.
And there's people who believe that, who say that, you know, I wouldn't have done what he did, or I don't necessarily agree of him kneeling because that's how it makes me feel, and my family members feel that may feel that type of way surrounding around the military and the flag. But when you say it's disrespectful, that means you're connecting that with the definition of disrespect, which I'm still clueless on so far.
And then when we get to that level with words like that, with definitions, that's when you start reaching levels that are really deep in behind meaning, and that's when it's difficult to communicate it, which is why we're stuck here right now.
Exactly.
Because disrespect and I wouldn't have done
and not agreeing, those are two different different ideologies and the two different opinions.
Yeah.
When you say disrespect,
because like disrespect
that means I'm disrespecting you.
It means
I'm basically saying that you're not worth it, which has never left his lips, has never been his narrative, have never been anything that he's pushed, or anyone else for that matter, that support this protest. So I'm still having a difficult time understanding the disrespect.
Interpreting disrespect.
Yeah, but like, look.
But you still haven't explained what disrespect is.
Okay, if I slap Luis,
don't slap me. Don't slap me.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
If I slapped him, would you find that disrespectful because I slapped you?
I would have done that. But like no, but the idea behind the word saying disrespect. Okay,
I think that would be universal.
Every time I've heard disrespectful, it means that you did something wrong.
Correct.
You disrespect the Don, you get iced. You disrespect authority, you go to jail. You disrespect your teacher, you get sent to the principal's office. If you're disrespecting the country, what's going on? Like, but I get, you know, like I get you and I get you both. I'm trying to buffer this together. You feel me? Because like there's a difference between disrespect, which implies you did something wrong, or you're like, you know, and or being offensive, versus like I wouldn't have done that. And the idea is like what exactly is the disrespectful part? I get the whole part, you know, respecting, well, not respecting the country, but like paying homage to, you know, what the country stands for and what it should be doing is great. But the idea that Kaepernick is saying is that maybe that what we're paying homage to isn't exactly where it should be. It's not
representing for everyone.
Yeah,
the protection under that flag is not necessarily representing for everyone. What's being exercised on a daily basis with a certain group of people is not being exercised for everyone. He feels that others without a voice that look like him, blacks, are being disrespected.
Alert, your battery appears to be low.
That's low battery.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So that's his stance. That's the reason why he's taking the stance. But it's not anti-military and it's not anti, you know, country.
Yeah, it's just
it's anti.
It's not necessarily even anti.
It's the brutality that people that look like him and himself, like blacks, are facing on an everyday level. But I feel that people. And that's the word that I'm trying to stick to, because you said there's different levels of disrespect, and you tried to use the example of him slapping Luis. I think everybody and anybody watching this right now would say, yeah, that would be disrespectful. But that is the understanding that we have. That is a universal understanding. Kind of right now, we don't have a universal understanding in your definition of disrespect, and when it comes to in regards to Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the flag, which was a compromise. That's the part where I'm trying to understand where the disrespect. I understand that I don't want you to rehash and go over again that that's something that you don't agree with, or anybody else that may take this stance. My point is, how is it disrespectful to that?
And I've tried to explain it using history, using the troops, and using how I've been raised as an example, but it keeps reverting back to, why do you think it's like?
So let's get back. Let's get to that. You said how you were raised. So your definition of disrespect surrounds based on how you were raised around the military, because this is the part that I want to get to. So anything that is against that national anthem, or anything that is not necessarily even against, anything that is shown to bring awareness around, would be considered disrespectful to you while the national anthem is being played.
No.
Okay, if I could jump in real quick. So, no, because I totally get what he means in a sense of, like, all these soldiers in the past, all the blood that's been spilled, like, that means so much. That's etched in that country. That's etched. song, regardless of what the history is, it's etched in that. I get that. I totally understand that. And the fact that people have died for what our country has had to gone through in terms of wars, if we're just talking about wars.
And
Now,
the people and those soldiers that have died for
and the
this
soldiers that
country
have died.
have died for us to stand here and talk about what we're
We've
talking
got,
about right now.
we've got
So-
that.
That's what my whole premise is. My whole premise is that those people died,
But it's not about
and
that.
we
So
should
if they-
be, and
so
we
if they-
should-
so-
and
so if they-
our, and standing for the flag is our way of respecting them, and not standing for it is disrespectful.
But you just said that the people fought so they could do that.
Yeah, you fought so that we can do it, but it's respectful to stand for it.
Are you going for a biting the hand that feeds you thing?
Because respectful,
No, I'm
disrespectful
not
to me.
going for
Well, 'cause,
that.
like,
Now this is just
I
my
think
opinion.
now that I'm hearing what you're saying, I think we're now caught up on the word.
Yeah, we're caught up on the word. But here's my thing, though, in terms of disrespect. Like, when
Jacob, that's not what I'm saying.
when we go into that, like, to me, this is just me. Like, disrespect to me is like, you see the flag, you start pissing on it and shit like that.
That's
To me,
fucked up.
that's disrespectful.
That's not
Right.
cool.
Like,
No,
but
no,
to
no.
me, I feel like Kaepernick took a different step where he's like, because it's just like, to me, America's like a household
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, I'm mad at my dad right now. I'm not coming out of my room. I love my dad. I care for him. He's taking care of me. But guess what, Dad? I'm not coming to dinner. Why? Because I'm mad at you. And I close the door. You disrespect. That's not disrespect, Dad. I'm just mad at you right now.
Yeah.
We have a problem that you're not addressing. And until you address that problem, I'm not coming out of my room. That's kind of where I feel that the word disrespect needs to be changed from disrespect to maybe we have a misunderstanding. That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not disrespectful. Maybe there's a misunderstanding that I'm not understanding that this man is going through. And I need to actually understand his point of view, his perspective on what he's going through, and take a step in his shoes and just see what it's like. And if you still disagree with it, well, then you still disagree with it.
And then when I mentioned the whole biting the hand that feeds you thing, what I'm getting is like, and I totally agree with you. Is like, let's say like America's the hand that feeds you all. Like America, I can say myself is like the greatest country around. You can do a lot of things here.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the hand that's feeding you. And some people see Colin Kaepernick, doing this thing as like biting the hand that's feeding him. How dare he? He's so spoiled, yada yada. Because the hand.
I counter that with
I'm
that's
saying,
exactly how this
Yeah.
country got
Yeah.
colonized.
But like
I would say in its own right.
and
They
his
basically
analogy
bit
about
the
that.
hand that fed them, dealing with the British,
Yeah.
and they did what they did.
Yeah.
And this is the country that we have now.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it different.
Yeah.
Now we can say all day long, yes, that's my opinion, but when you use the word disrespect, now we're taking it to a whole nother stage. We're no longer taking with disagreeing. We're taking it with someone who is ethically, we're drawing the line.
Wrong.
He is wrong.
Yeah.
And that is the issue. Because you are no moral high ground to say that he is. Neither is anybody who has fought for this country. Still can't, because that's exactly the reasons why they did it.
Yeah.
If you want to, if that's what they really went in for.
Yeah. And
so, which we could talk. That's a
And
whole
what I
other
think
conversation.
what you're saying, Jacob, let me get this right, is what you're saying is like the legality. Of course you can, but what you're saying is like the whole why would you when this is the hand that's feeding kind of thing? Like, because
No.
is that what you're saying? Or what are you trying to say?
No, I'm saying, I'm going to say this one more time. The soldiers that have died for your right to protest it.
Yeah, but
But you should still stand for the flag to respect the fact that they died.
yeah, because
And not
So when you just said- when
not
you-
standing for the flag is disrespectful to them,
So not-
which in
Yeah.
return
Hold on.
is disrespectful to me.
but okay, but the idea
I am
is
saying it's disrespectful not to respect the soldiers
No.
that have died
and
and shed blood.
yeah, and I totally agree with you with
Yeah,
that. but
and
like,
you
is the-
can once again, if they are protesting the national anthem,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to find it respectful.
Yeah, the
I don't have to do
duality.
this sort of stuff.
the duality.
I just say, okay, you're not standing for the flag. I find it disrespectful. You're not respecting the troops that have died.
Yeah.
But I get it. And there's nothing that I can say or get pissed off
Yeah,
about
but-
because they died so that you can do that.
Yeah, but the idea is like we have to pay homage to those soldiers because of course they died and they shed blood for us to
Yeah,
be
that's my
yeah,
statement.
Yeah, but
That
like
we should pay
but-
homage to them.
But the analogy I'm getting is you've heard the whole biting the hand that feeds you thing, where it's like
Yes.
the hand is feeding you all this liberty and freedom, and the hand is where people have died, and people like Kaepernick, not standing for the anthem and like you're saying disrespecting the anthem is like biting the hand that's feeding them, and you think that's wrong morally. Is what you're saying.
Dude,
That's
And
what
that
I'm
goes
saying.
back to what I just
Yeah.
said about dealing with the patriotism and dealing with the fact that anything that interrupts the national anthem or the display of the flag in any media format, any public format, is disrespectful, and that is above reproach. You're saying exactly what I'm saying, but then every time I ask you that, you're saying that that's not the case.
The way you're phrasing it,
but I don't
changes different.
I don't see how it changes it though, because you're saying that this is exactly what you're saying. And correct me if I'm misquoting you.
Flag in any way, I find it disrespectful.
You're saying that no matter what, even though the veterans, the soldiers who fought and who have died for this country, who has given us the right to protest, if I exercise that right, I'm being disrespectful.
Yes.
That's asinine to me.
Well, I get his opinion absolutely, because I feel like
I don't know. Am I the only one that feel that way?
Well, one more question too is do you think about why he's doing it?
I think about
no,
why
that's
why
good.
he's doing it.
Because I think you do get it. So
No.
if you do, so
But I
that's
just
where my thing is.
why
To
it's
me,
disrespectful.
America is such a great nation. To me, if I owned my own country and there was a problem or there's some bullshit happening in my house, if I have a perfect household and I have a family and I realize one of my kids is doing drugs, I'm going to want to address that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying drugs is the same thing as that. I'm saying it's just a problem.
Yeah.
So if there's an issue with America, if there's something going on in America that I'm disagreeing with, I kind of want to take a stand and I want people to recognize
And I agree
this is a
with
great
that.
nation. So then it's not disrespectful if you agree with that.
But when it comes to the flag in the anthem, I find it disrespectful.
Wait, we
And
just did circle. Wait.
okay.
So you find it. I just want to establish, and we got it, that you find it disrespectful of the right that the soldiers fought and died for, that they exercised. That's exactly what you just said.
Exercise the right.
We're reaching
right?
a point of
Oh.
opinion where it's just like there is no movement because you can't really okay. I can have the opinion that shock.
So like, okay, I'm the
I could
soldier.
say-
I'm Soldier Johnson. I go out there and fight.
You're so fucking arrogant.
I'm just saying.
Soldier Johnson.
I'm Soldier Johnson, and I go out there and fight, and I lose a leg, and I fought out there because I want people to have the right to be able to protest and do what they want because this is the best country in the world.
Yeah.
And I come back. Now somebody wants to exercise that right that I just lost my leg for.
Yeah.
Now that person is disrespectful because they just exercised the right that I just
Disrespecting
lost.
you.
That I just lost my leg
Exercising
for.
the right and finding something disrespectful are two completely different things.
I think I get because there's a legality of it, like whatever.
I don't see that.
But like okay, like you can do it. Obviously you can do it, but like somebody can find it like well, like you were saying in a lighter way instead of saying disrespectful. I wouldn't have done that in a lighter way.
And that's where we're getting
But
at.
the problem you're saying is like why the word disrespectful?
That's where I'm.
Because to me,
yeah.
it's extreme.
Extreme.
Extreme would be me the pissing on fire.
Oh fuck those people!
And the lighting
You
the
light
flame.
the flag on fire. I'm up.
Oh yeah, that
I'm
to
gonna
me
go kick
that's
your ass.
ridiculous.
I'll
Like
kick
that's
your
like get
ass.
out of our like out. Yeah, our country boy. Like that's
Go
that,
back,
yeah.
boy.
Don't do
We
that
all
shit.
go a
Like,
little south a little bit.
but that's the part where I'm like, wait, a Green Beret told him to do it. Wait,
Yeah.
he's just addressing an issue.
Well, at one point it's you can ask to define, but that's just asking somebody straight up like what their ethics are at that point. Because like I could come in.
I
and
love
say,
America. I'd be like,
Yeah.
good, thank you for addressing
Yeah.
that. Hold on, let's
Yeah.
find out what he's talking
Yeah.
about. What is this man saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I was asking.
But
the
that's
question,
not the
do you
narrative,
know-
and that's
do you
not
know
what's
what he's
happening,
talking
and
about?
that's
Yeah.
not the conversation that
Yeah.
happened. What's happening
But-
is exactly the way you're explaining it.
But-
You're isolating yourself from the situation so you don't have to talk about it. You're saying that, hey, you know what? They can do what they want to do, and you use the word "they" quite often. They can do what they want to do if that's the way they feel.
Yeah.
But that don't need to be pushed onto me because I don't feel that way.
No,
I don't feel like their race is being disrespected. I don't feel that they're going through plight or hell. So I'm gonna feel like it's disrespectful.
No.
And to me, that is the problem.
I think it's going a little too complex here because at some point it's just opinions that can't be okay. So for example,
But opinions got to be supported by facts.
Jacob sees understands the
We're
problems
talking
going
about
on.
facts, we'll
So-
bring up statistics.
but like what you were saying is you understand what's going on and why they're doing it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but hold on.
And I've never
Hold on,
denied
hold on,
that
hold on,
they're
hold
not
on,
going
hold
through
on,
that.
hold on. So you understand that and why it's going on. So he gets it. He gets it.
I
But
never
he himself,
denied that it's not
I
happening.
never said you didn't. But the thing is, he personally
Oh, I
finds
get
it
it.
disrespectful. You see what I'm saying? It's just an opinion thing where you can't change that. Like he gets the message, he
And
doesn't.
I never
but when-
denied it.
I
but
never.
I could still.
Jacob, I never
No, I'm
said-
saying. I'm saying.
Well, let me
for
get my
that.
point across. Let me get my point across.
Well, then that was
He-
my question. But then you said, and that was
I've
my
been saying
question
the
earlier
same
though.
thing over and over.
No. I'm talking about the question I asked. Then what would have not been disrespectful into
think-
Way's awareness for his issue?
That
And then
question-
your answer was, oh, I don't know. He can,
Well, okay.
We'll
hold on.
never know.
Let me buffer
because
this.
he didn't take it that
Well,
way.
let me
That's
buffer
just thinking of something. Oh, what
That's-
else? could
that's
have
not
done?
taking
it
But
that
we're not
way.
focused on what he could have done.
Tony,
We're focused on what he
You
did.
and I are getting the same vibe,
which
right?
is protest.
I think, right? So where it's like there is an opinion where people just have an opinion versus like they get the message. Like the word disrespect is loaded. Absolutely, it's because it implies wrongdoing or a position of wrongdoing. You are using the word because it offends you because you believe that they should at least respect the country that is giving them the power to do so. You know that you can do it, but you shouldn't. You probably if you're
You
in a
can
moral
do
high
it.
ground. But then we question morals and what we believe, and at that point, that's just where we're gonna have an impasse. You know, because he's getting the idea and he understands the problems, but he just has this moral kind of
I don't
impasse.
feel
where
it.
it's
I
just
don't feel like it's an impasse. I think
Do you
it's-
kinda
I
get
think
what I'm saying? 'Cause
I
that's
feel
what I'm
like
getting.
I feel like it's a skirt on words, and I feel like it's
yeah.
we're there, but something's being dodged.
It's-
Because I keep bringing this same issue up when it comes to, and I use the examples, and I've tried to put it in layman's terms as best as I can. When you say that it's disrespectful that if I'm the soldier and I go over there and fight, and my motivation is to keep this country
If
free.
one soldier says it's okay, it doesn't mean other
It's-
soldiers. are
Any
No,
okay.
no, no,
soldier.
yeah,
I'm not saying myself. I'm saying
Each
any
person has an
soldier.
opinion, yeah.
Any soldier that goes over, because now we're questioning motivations. But let's just say their motivations are for the right thing.
Yeah.
To create, make sure it's a free country for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We want justice for all. Everybody to be treated equal,
Even
right?
based on World War II standards. Yes.
Everything.
Mhm.
I'm just using
And
it
I'm
as
giving
an
that
example.
person, and I'm exercising, and I'm fighting for the right for people to protest and keep that going because that's what this country was built on. And yet you're mad at the guy who exercised the right that the person went and fought for. That is what's asinine to me.
I'm not
That's what I
mad
don't
at
get.
the person.
Oh,
I'm mad at the
there's-
concept.
Okay, let
of
me-
stand or
there's a
kneeling
quote.
for the flag
There's a
or
quote.
sitting for the flag.
There's a quote, I don't remember who said it, but they said, I may not disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And that's what I'm getting a vibe from him. Well, he
I
may
don't have to
disagree,
agree with
but
it.
he'll...
But that's agreeing. That's
Yeah.
not disrespectful. Disrespectful is that
Well,
is
it's
a
just-
definition
it's
of
just
a
choice
word.
of words that may not
If
be,
I call Louise a racial slur, would you find that disrespectful?
Be like, how dare you? That's so rude.
Well, of course. I think everybody in this room would.
So how-
But again, that's taking it to the extreme.
But
Yeah.
if I called him just a retard, would you find that disrespectful?
Yeah.
Some people
He hasn't
would, some
displayed
people
that
would.
he's a
but that's
retard
not
so
the
far.
issue.
But the idea is
So-
some people would,
So I would
some people
say,
wouldn't.
so I would say, yeah, I would just say you're out of line, sir.
But me and Tony click the word here is individuals, and each person has a different opinion, and it's
called
certain
individualism.
opinion. Yeah, but like you know, one person to another, it's kind of like you may I wouldn't have done it that way. I wouldn't have done that versus you don't have you shouldn't do it.
We're talking about the level of disrespect, though.
Yeah.
Because is there really a level of disrespect? That's another thing too. That's another question. Like, is there a level of disrespect?
Yeah.
I think there
And
should be with
depending on
something
the
like this.
person, there may or may not be.
Well, then that's like
See, then
Now,
that's.
I can say this.
disrespectful.
Everyone
Hold on,
is
hold on,
different.
everybody, right now. Is this? Did I just disrespect you guys?
To us,
I don't know.
no. But to
In
other
some
people,
cultures,
Other
Possibly.
people might think that's
because
disrespectful.
everyone is different.
Well, I mean,
Everyone has a
this is-
different
this-
opinion, a different view, a different way of life.
I don't think there's any way to connect them because
I don't know what's going on at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going
Because
on.
now we're just saying that everyone could just be disrespected
whatever.
because that's the
I'm a
way I
boy.
feel.
I'm a girl. I feel like a girl.
I feel like that's what I feel. I feel
Well,
like
then
I'm
it's
like- I'm
disrespected.
60
We're
years
not
old.
we're not putting any substance
then-
behind it.
And
Why
then,
aren't you 60?
and then it's like, and
Why
then
don't
we
you
get to the
identify
whole,
as 60?
it's the whole political correctness.
sick-
And
I
then-
feel like I'm
and then
60.
it devolves into that, But the idea is, and what I want to connect is that we understand why it's happening, and we agree that Kaepernick doing what he did may upset some people, but he did it for a positive cause that he wanted to get across, and the fact, and we have to at least understand that and try to move forward with that, and I would use the phrase, I wouldn't have done that myself, I get the phrase disrespect because you think of the people and the sacrifice people have made and what the country stands for, and some people may take it in the face value of you kind of saying F you to the flag, F you to the country, because that's what it looks like. People perceive it that way, and that's your gut reaction.
No, that's not a way.
New Zealand?
That's not perception. That's the narrative that's being pushed. Because he
'cause
made
some
it very
people-
clear
Mhm.
that it's not against the military.
Yeah.
He made it very clear that it's not against the country.
Yeah,
he made it
myself,
very clear
If he
that's
makes
about.
if he makes it clear that it's not against it, it doesn't mean that other people don't find it.
Then that's your problem.
Yeah, and that's a personal.
That's what I'm saying.
And just because you say that doesn't mean that you're right.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
That I was right.
But then
I claimed it was my opinion.
You know, and it's the second whole. It devolves. You feel me? But we can all agree that Kaepernick, though some people may not have done it his way, did not do it to disrespect the United States, but to bring awareness to an issue.
We have to start getting we start also have to have some tangible context.
Yeah.
Now there's going to be some people in this world that feels like if I go over there and I stomp on this ant, that's murder. Now is that murder?
It's all a definition.
It is not murder. That is not murder. Period. Let's make that very clear here. It is not murder to me.
Yeah.
I am not going to go to jail.
See, the key word is to you.
And that's the problem.
But that's the point. But now we start getting into the moral context. But now we have to start getting into the moral context of it and the tangible reasons. Now, granted, there are people out there that feel like I murdered this ant.
Yeah, and you should pay for it, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah, but that's just, it's like each person has that individual.
So how much credibility does that have?
Well, that's the problem.
It doesn't matter about it. You don't need credibility. It's
you do need credibility.
Opinion.
But that right there, to me, that's a cop out.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: that is a cop out of the human construct of people, because everybody can just result. And this is what I get tired of. What people do on social media is they say anytime someone starts combating them and picking apart their opinion, they just resort to, well, that's my opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, that's just not going to fly. Your opinion of the sky being green, I don't give a damn. It's blue. Let's be real.
But then it's like...
So now we're getting into, just because I have an opinion as a human being, that's going to save me or keep me away from being critiqued on why I feel the way I feel. Mm-hmm. And that is the issue. And we're talking about the word disrespect. We have to start getting real here and start having real conversations and not skirting the issue. And I think that's exactly what's happening.
It's gonna
because this is the same type of conversation that is happening over social media, through comment threads, with people at their jobs, whatever the case may be. So with interaction with people, they are having this type of conversation where they'll at the end of the day, their lasting words will be, "That is my opinion." And to me, that's the biggest cop out if you're not supporting it with facts, and you're not supporting it with a reason why you actually feel this man or these people disrespected. You still have not done that. You have not, because if we went down and broke it down to the definition of disrespect, you have yet to clarify that. You've just said that's my opinion.
You gonna Webster it? Yeah. He's gonna, but like, okay, but like the thing is, like, you know, I absolutely get what you're saying. The whole opinion versus fact. Let's get real with certain things. You can have an opinion, but we got to look at facts. You know, opinions.
Because I can say I'm disrespected all day. I can say, you know what? I hate wood. I hate wood. I hate wood. Yeah. Tony's name is in wood right there. I'm disrespected.
Respect or courtesy.
It's just like it's just a okay, look. What you're saying is I get it. You know, there needs to be a foundation.
I said basis. That's the perfect term. Yeah, you need because now we got, like I just said, and I'll use the analogy. I hate wood. Hate that shit. That word right there. He's got his name Tony written in wood. I'm hella disrespected right now.
I didn't put that.
I'm disrespected. So that should hold credence, because I feel disrespected because this wood is staring at me right now.
Yeah.
So now Tony's got to move it.
Therefore,
because I don't like
you can equate that to so many social problems that's going on,
and that's exactly my point, because we don't have any basis of foundation of speech. We're just saying it's my opinion, and to me that's a cop out. We need to start having context behind why that's your opinion. That is the issue, and that's why none of this stuff gets solved, because everybody just resorts to it's my opinion. And that's why nothing gets talked about.
Just real quick, just to throw this out there, because I kind of know a little bit outside of your political beliefs. Yeah. When you had brought up the fact that you don't believe that biologically a female and a male can't decide what they are. You can't just at this moment, I can't just say I'm a female, right? You agree with that?
Yeah.
Right. So you do realize that community would call you disrespectful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some cultures
would
call you disrespectful for like doing this. You know, it's all
what
like,
I believe.
It's just. But like,
and that's what it boils down to.
No. Okay,
they can think I can find disrespectful, but that's what they believe, and that's what their life is.
Let me buffer here real quick. So there are some things like in culture where it's just like that's kind of like how the society built and how it kind of survived. And there's certain things like in Italy, it means fuck you. You know, why is it? You walk up to an Italian or like a Greek guy, thumbs up. he's gonna get offended. That's some things that are just kind of there. But there are some things.
But this isn't lost in translation.
Yeah,
though.
but there are some things that you need to have at least a basis for. Is what you're saying.
Exactly. And I don't feel like we're operating under the same rules and parameters based on the definition that he has given and the reason why he has that.
And just me personally, this is just me personally. I would just wish that people, because I'm not just meaning you, but there's other people that think that way, and I just wish that they would look into a deeper root cause of that. Like for instance, like if someone did say they were female, right, and they were a guy in front of me, I shouldn't be like, that's disrespectful or blah blah blah. I should make a question like, why do you feel you want to bend your ass over? What do you like? What do you like? Like, come on, man. Like I should try to figure it out. Like, what's going on? And so when we're trying to trail this back to what we were talking about earlier with Kaepernick, and you're saying it's disrespectful, it's like, well, you should know the deeper root of why. Like,
and do know the deeper root.
Hold on.
But you still find it disrespectful.
Let Tony go.
But you still find it disrespectful, exactly. So
that contradicts.
Exactly.
You can know what something is, but still find it disrespectful.
You can't say no, though, because when you know all the facts. But when you know why he did what he did, why he stopped sitting down, why he finally took a knee, why he finally said to himself, well, if the veterans think that way, I'll have respect for the veterans, and I'll take a knee just like he asked me to. Not saying now that green beret doesn't speak for all the military veterans out there, because obviously people have a different opinion of that. People are obviously going to say, well, to me that's still disrespectful, and I get it, especially if we're talking about past wars. But ultimately what he's doing it for, especially when he announces it, you know what I mean? I still think, and it's not something that's extreme. It's not like pissing on the flag.
His reason is not up for interpretation.
Peeing on the flag,
it's not.
I'm getting rid of the white lines and making them yellow, so it's not all white, so it's not all white lives, or whatever the hell. Like, you know what I mean?
Creative.
Like, I'm just trying to just think of something that's extreme to relate it to something that's just kind of small. Right? So to me, it's like ultimately, I'm just hoping that you realize why Kaepernick's doing why he's doing it, and even though you see it as disrespectful, I almost wish that you didn't see it as disrespectful. You just saw it more of like,
I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that, but hey, I see why he's doing it. You know what I mean? Because he could be, compared to what people do to the flag and how they disrespect this country, because there are people like that out here that just do the most ridiculous things. Yeah. But what he's doing, that's
and they ain't NFL players.
That's like, well, let me analyze this. Kaepernick, his only platform is the NFL. Yeah. They never used to stand for the national anthem. Now they are. You know what? All right, I see why he's doing it. And not that it's disrespectful, it's for anybody else doing it and not understanding and not doing it under the same guise as Kaepernick is doing it. To me, that's the only way I can see you drawing the line.
Yeah. Is having the basis as to what and why and looking into what and before you form an opinion is what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but your basis is that, like, you know, because
past people that have died,
undermining what other people have done for the country.
Yes, which never forget past slaves that died. Yeah. So now we have two different sides.
Yeah, and we can have our own reasons.
And I'm not denying that just because one side died, that means the other side is completely undermined, that they don't count at all.
And I'm
specifically focused on one area when it comes to this one matter. When it comes to the flag and it comes to the national anthem, you focus and have the common courtesy to respect the soldiers that have died for this country. That's what it is.
What time are we running on? Just a question.
There's a podcast goes whenever.
Almost 11. We probably actually got to wrap this up soon, honestly.
Okay, cool.
So is there any final thoughts that y'all want to get out? I mean, what are you thinking, Tony?
No, I don't know, and I'm glad, because there's other people that, like, I'm hoping ultimately what people end up realizing is that hopefully you gotta look at a different perspective. I still will. I'll still think on this. Like, I'll literally be like, okay, so.
Can I really see the title real quick? Because when I brought up the video, there's a specific still frame that I wanted to show.
You're looking for a still frame. Sure, go for it. But you go ahead and Tony, you were saying?
Here, I'll pass it was on that video.
Yeah.
Oh, it was on this video?
Here, I'll pass it over.
If you want to display it, hit the Chromecast button.
Yeah. So go ahead and find that. And you go ahead and get up saying what you were saying.
What was my last words?
You were going for the whole we were tying back to the whole basis thing, and god damn it. It's on the tape, but now I'm forgetting. But you were going somewhere with it. You were just building your kind of like pretense to it.
There, right there, I found it. We were all humans until race disconnected us, religion separated us.
Politics divided us.
Politics divided us, and wealth classified us. That's what I originally wanted to break when you talked about how racism is used to divide us, and that's what this made me thought of.
Yeah. It does.
Was this specific still frame? We're all humans in the end, but this is what separates. Oh, what did you do?
Oh no! Do you want to play it?
There it is.
No, I just wanted to keep it paused there, but he He pressed the button. And
Oh,
disconnected, so
okay.
refreshing.
But the
It's
general,
it's actually casting to the actual TV.
what
now.
would you say the general kind of like throughout all this talk, starting from what we started with racial bias in the United States
Mhm.
with authority, up to people finding a way to protest to it? What do you think is the main kind of idea that people should be at least trying to grasp at? Because you got your idea, you're pushing that. And I understand what you're saying completely, and I understand what he's saying.
Mhm.
But where do you stand, Tony?
I mean, I'm basically just standing on the premise that you should hear what somebody's saying
Absolutely.
and then try to literally. I mean, in this situation, it's not it's really hard to explain because it's
It
not
is.
the same.
It's language that's difficult, you know.
Yeah, and it's the language. It
It's the
really,
ideas
it really
with it.
is, but at the same time, it's not though, because when you're saying something, when you're implying, for instance, the word disrespectful.
Yeah.
Like if I were to say, let's say, for instance, I'm living here and I told you guys, you guys came here in my house first time, and I said,
Yeah.
my wife is disrespectful. She is disrespectful. I'd be like, well, why are you with her?
Why?
You would tell me to leave her. You would tell me that's wrong. Like, what do you? So ultimately, when you're saying the word disrespect, you're saying whatever it is that person is doing is completely wrong. And I'm asking people to do one thing. I'm asking them to look at that and decide why it's not disrespectful because of these reasons, these facts that are put out there. Like, this man is not talking about World War II veterans.
Yeah.
He's not talking about, people that are even currently in the military, which I would even talk about, but
Yeah.
he's not even talking about that. He isn't peeing on the flag.
Yeah.
He isn't taking
He
a
isn't
shit on it or
burning it.
burning it.
Yeah.
Like, he's literally just listening to another veteran that told him
So before
to
you're
take a knee.
so what you're saying is before you personally decide it's respectful based on your own ideas, you should go out and investigate why they're doing such things before you decide, because it's up to what they're doing
Which
and
is
what
what I did.
and what they're trying to get across. But it's up to what they're trying to get across, not what you're perceiving it as.
Exactly,
is what
and
you're
then
saying.
come back and say, I get it, but
I would've done it.
but this is where the
Twilight comes.
Yeah, right, and this right, but it's just still disrespectful. Then
And then
you
you
get
get
it.
the ball.
But see,
drops.
and then that's when we get to the above reproach part. Like I said, then what would it not? What would it take for it not to be
And then
disrespectful?
define disrespect, and then
What
we
would he
gotta
have to
find rights
do?
and wrongs,
Well, also,
yeah.
you need to disrespect things to make people look into it.
That's protest.
Right.
In a sense, making people uncomfortable, making them feel
Yeah, but I disagree with that because he's not
Look at
protesting. He's not
look at
protesting the
civil rights
military.
movement.
That would be the
When-
case if he was
when
protesting the
African
military.
Americans would walk into a diner and sit there for hours in the whites only section. People found that disrespectful,
But then it's like
and that's a form of a protest.
But
It's
that's-
making people open up and see
No,
what's
but-
going
but-
on.
Okay, well let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me stop you right there. Were
And-
those
and having
were
somebody
those
be
were those white
disrespectful-
people that were upset or anybody that was upset for them sitting in there? Were they wrong for feeling that way? You goddamn right. Because they shouldn't have had to have a goddamn sit in. They should be able to sit wherever the fuck they wanted to sit.
And they were-
That's the problem, and that's the issue. Exactly what we're talking about here: the moral compass, the actual basis of foundation,
Yeah.
the context,
Okay, but you're also
and that's
trying-
the
you're also-
part.
You're also equating.
So I don't really
the
give it
civil
that
rights
part is irrelevant to me.
someone
No,
not
but-
liking how someone kneels for the
No,
flag.
Jacob, that's not the point he's making though. Like it's the idea is like they were.
You just-
This
you
whole time
okay.
they haven't been able to move on because
No,
no
hold
one
on.
likes the
But
fact.
let me-
like he doesn't like the fact that I think is disrespectful,
No,
and I
but-
use the
but
word disrespectful,
we're past that,
and
though.
I'm going to continue to use
Okay,
it
but-
because I find it that way.
No, but all he's saying, and I get what he's saying, is before you just
Just like I feel like that wood's
like
disrespect.
before you say
See,
disrespectful.
you're
I don't-
equating
I don't-
wood
I don't like
to an
that,
actual
y'all.
issue.
Hold on, y'all. So like what Tony was saying is before you we start calling things disrespectful and forming opinions, go out there, look into it, really understand it. And
Which is what he's saying he did.
Yeah. And for example, his example is the whole whites. Whites felt disrespected.
In the
But
example
what-
you
what
just
basis
gave,
did they have besides they were white and they didn't like black people, and they didn't look. Why were they protesting? Because they wanted rights. And-
Ooh, so here's my next question: if Boyer, what's his first name?
Nate Boyer.
If Nate Boyer came in right now, shook your hand, what branch are you going to?
I'm going National Guard.
I want
National
Air
Guard.
Force.
And
I
he's
want Air
like, and
Force.
he's like, hey, I went to National Guard before I became a Marine. Hey, man, awesome. And all of a sudden, he told you that he didn't think it was disrespectful. What would you think of him saying that? You would just tell him.
Well,
I would say
his opinion
congratulations,
is not
you're
his.
a human being and lives in America and can come up with your own opinion.
But-
I live in this country too. I can make my own opinions and come up with my ideas and my ideologies.
So then-
now, whether you choose to believe, to agree with me or disagree with me, is your right to. The whole point of this country is that you have different ideologies that are supposed to come together and talk about things and find common ground. Now we can find common ground on that specific issue, but there's things we just won't find common ground on.
So his
Because
next
we're
question.
humans.
No, that's perfect. So his next question would be, okay, so tell me why it's wrong to do that, because it's obvious that you think disrespectful is being wrong in a sense, because if I slap my wife right now, that's wrong. That's
Yeah.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
So The next
That's
question he
very
would,
disrespectful.
yeah. So the next question he would
What
say
is
is,
this, the 50s?
right. Boyer would say, "Well, I've gone through 4 tours. I've seen war.
Yeah.
I spilled blood. You haven't spilled blood yet, so I have a right to talk on this. So the only reason why I'm telling you is because I care about you. So, how am I wrong? That's his next question to you.
Okay, and he used this. And you're saying in this scenario, he used to say that he has the right to talk on it.
Well, okay.
No, he has.
But he asked the question, how is he wrong?
How is he wrong? Yeah.
Because when you equate disrespectful, that's exactly what you're saying.
Okay, and the definition of disrespectful is having a lack of courtesy.
Oh, now we're going backwards now, because we're saying it's
No,
wrong.
we're saying
Okay.
we're talking about. I'm using the word disrespectful, and I'm saying the definition of disrespectful is having a lack of courtesy, and
Okay.
I'm saying it is disrespectful to not have the courtesy to stand for stand for the flag, to respect the people who have died for this
Even if
country.
you don't think there's anything wrong with the
Courtesy
country.
and wrongdoing. Actually, that word courtesy is different than
Right.
But
But
That's,
even,
in the that's in the definition. I looked it up. I still got it bookmarked.
but even if you don't think there's anything wrong in the country, that's why I'm talking about looking into it again.
Once
Okay,
again,
I think we're
just
stuck
because
here.
you find if
I
I'm
think we're
saying
too, yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
this
So-
flag is disrespectful, if I'm saying kneeling for the flag is disrespectful, it doesn't automatically mean that I think there's nothing wrong with this country. We have a shit ton of things wrong with this country. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
Every country has something wrong with it. Now we want to talk about police brutality and how that's an issue. Yes, that's a hot topic issue in this country. Now, once again, kneeling for the flag, the way they are representing it is talking about police brutality. But the way I see it, if you do not stand for the flag, no matter what your issue is, whatever you're trying to focus on, if you do not stand for the flag and stand for the national anthem, it is showing a lack of courtesy to the troops that have died for this country, which is disrespectful.
Vanfira.
And that's exactly my point. It's above reproach. I'll say it for like the 10th time.
Because it just makes it to where, I don't know.
How dare
Very
you?
nationalistic.
How dare you
So I
not
think-
stand for the flag that
So-
the people fought and
And you
died
can
for?
say
Hold
how
on. So-
dare you,
so-
and you can
we're
say
gonna-
how
we're
dare
going in
you
circles.
stand for it.
We're going in circles here, but what we should get across here is what are the toughest questions trying to answer before anybody comments on them, makes an opinion on them, guys. What are the problems here? The words disrespect and the connotations behind that. Why do you find things disrespectful? And
I feel
what's the-
it's like you said, it's going into
the main
individualistic
questions we're stuck
opinion
on before we
and with no
yeah.
basis behind
Yeah,
it.
there's
Like I
no
said,
basis.
I can say that the sky. I can say all day right now the sky is black,
Yeah.
and then somebody can say nope, it's red. Well, that's your opinion.
I have the right. It's my God-given
That's
right.
my God-given right to say that the sky is red. Okay, then
It's
yes,
gonna go
that is your
You
right,
don't have to agree with
and
it.
I don't have to agree with
You
it.
don't.
But I can tell you right now,
that's-
you are not correct, sir.
And
It
that's-
is not red. And that's where we need to start getting to, this idea that just because I got an opinion, that's where the conversation gets nowhere, because that's where everybody says, oh, that's just my opinion. We haven't gotten anywhere.
It also
This
depends
whole
on-
conversation tonight has gotten nowhere. Only thing I've gotten is your idea and opinion behind it. But we haven't had no real conversation, because all you're saying is, that's my opinion. That's not debating. You have to debate. You have to literally
Because
support
every time I
it.
use
Support
my
it with
or
facts.
use an argument, your immediate response is, "What about these people, huh?
No,
these people
Jake-
did that. These
no,
people
no,
did
no.
that." I'm not undermining what
No.
other people did. I'm not undermining what.
No,
people
no,
did.
I think-
I'm using a specific group for my specific example of
And
my
you did.
specific opinion.
And I said it, and you used that example, and I thought that was a perfect example. You talked about sit-ins, and you said that those white people said that that's disrespectful. And my question to you was,
Why?
who gives a damn? Number one,
I-
and are they right to feel disrespected?
You don't have to.
No, answer that. Answer
you
that.
Can find something disrespectful, but you don't have to be right about it. That's what you're boiling it down to.
So
You
you're
take-
choosing the side of non-rightness?
No,
We're
I'm.
going back.
Ooh. Never mind. I thought something evil. I'm an evil person. Keep going.
So my question is, so that's my question.
I gotta get-
And that's the
How did you know?
The fucking Holocaust.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
that's what he
dude.
was going for.
So
How are you going to
Jesus.
Hold on, I want to know how are
Jesus.
you going to incorporate the Holocaust?
Well,
Okay.
I've had family members. You guys don't get this. Like, you guys want to talk all this, bro. I've had family members die at the Holocaust, bro. Like, it
Same.
really gets to me. Well, they died. They fell off the watchtowers.
Oh, I love those
There it
Fun
is.
fact,
Jesus.
actual historical
So they
device.
did that, right?
One side of my family were actually killed in the Holocaust, and on the other side of the family
With regards.
was a Nazi that actually pulled a lever that actually killed my other
He's
side of
actually
the
not,
family.
he's not
Oh
joking.
my
This
God,
thing is
Jesus.
Okay, so So
I have actual Nazi relatives and actual Jewish relatives that were killed.
But we're going left, right. So let's drive home kind of the main idea of what we're going for here. Let's try to combine these here. So Tony, we want to make sure that people, like he's saying, have a kind of a foundation and kind of real solid things to stand on to have an opinion on something. You know, like you said, if you look at a strawberry and say it's purple and you see it is red, but that's my
yeah. You can have that opinion, but you are not correct.
Yeah. Versus the idea of like personally finding something.
To me, that's a cop out.
Yeah, and versus personally finding something.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Versus personally finding something that's like you disagree with and would deem disrespectful because it's dodging courtesy. But what are we?
You're using your own emotions to define what you really feel about the situation. That's exactly what you've just said to me tonight.
It's like
before we get there, what's this thing we're trying to grab at? You know, before we get this. Because I feel like we're not going to answer this question for a while.
There's no way to say it. I mean, it's just like
telling us that we can agree to disagree. That's the basis.
And that's exactly why we're in the position that we're in right now.
Agreeing to disagree is
a cop out.
That's a killer.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what it's going to boil down to. Everyone.
And that's how it ain't never going to get better. I mean, and that's why people need to keep on protesting and keep fighting the establishment the way that they are to make people uncomfortable. This whole sense of complacency is the problem with this country and the reason why we're not going to get a certain group of people, which in this case that we're talking about is black people, uprooted from that idea, because we got the majority of the people in this country feel that there isn't a problem because that's their fucking opinion.
Yeah.
And that's the goddamn problem. But nobody wants to talk about it. We just gonna play this game, let's agree to disagree bullshit.
Because it's like, should the people that, put the people in the concentration camps, should they go to jail? Well, they were just given orders. It's like, well, they knew it was wrong.
It's like the same example he just gave, the people doing the sit-in and the white people feeling disrespected. Well, yeah, they're disrespected. They're the ones who feel like that they're better than black people and that they should be separate from blacks and blacks should have their own restaurant or go to their own diner or whatever the case may be. That doesn't make them right. None of that make them ethically, morally right, which is more important. You're making an emotional decision based on how you feel, not based on facts when you define being disrespectful.
If you want to talk about facts, that's actually that's what people stand for the flag for, is to respect the dead soldiers. No, that's actually why people do that.
Then why does 95% of the people who've been in the military have told me that they don't feel disrespected? And not only they don't feel disrespected, they agree with the stance. Not even just disrespected, they agree.
Of people, but the 100% of the people that I know that are in the military find it disrespectful.
And you still have not said why.
Can I see the tablet real quick?
Oh, man, it's just difficult, man. Shit.
You keep just bringing up dead soldiers.
Because that's the whole premise of it.
But those dead soldiers fought so he could do what he did.
Yes, and you... Okay.
So how is that disrespectful?
We're back.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
So
like, you're not making any sense.
Okay, so let's you got something you want to kind of like touch on before it's all over, Tony, at all?
No, that should be it. I mean, I guess
it's something that people got to go home and really flip around like a pancake. You feel me? Because because I absolutely get what you're saying. I absolutely get what Jacob's saying. But there's certain words that have difficult definitions or certain concepts that are totally clashing here.
Going home and having a bowl of Honey Bunches of votes ain't gonna get nobody to realize the issues. I'll tell you that right now.
What we need to do is sit down with each other.
And sitting with the idea of complacency ain't gonna do it either.
But we're sitting with each other and talking about it and trying to find a solution is the best way to go through it, because if we just sit there complacent, he's right, then certain things will end up happening that we could have prevented,
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole idea with getting a gun pulled on Tony. What could have people done before that? What could we have done as a people to kind of like stave that off to where that shit stops happening, where one thing leads to another.
Well, the only other thing that could have changed that circumstance was to change the heart of the cop.
That and why they believe certain things and
I try to understand him. I just think his ex-girlfriend
just
ended up going with a black guy during high school, and then
he
ended up getting a job, and he's like,
that's
fucking black guy. I'm gonna get him.
He didn't get that suck. He didn't get that suck, so he had to just release it.
He's just releasing it, he's just like.
She didn't fucking blow me after prom.
I do have to admit this was an interesting talk though. I did enjoy it though, but this is definitely something I'm gonna try to pose to more of my friends, because now that I'm like really seeing this kind of like thing going on here, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta ask people about this, like disrespect. Why is it? What's going on here? But that was holy shit. That's crazy, man.
So it's actually 60% of veterans that agree with Kaepernick.
Mm-hmm.
40% of them though won't watch because of the protest. And it's funny.
And
'cause,
I
like,
won't
these
even
polls-
go even with those numbers.
Yeah.
I won't even say, even if I'm just looking on a numbers base, I wouldn't say that is the morally right just because the majority of
Right.
the people
Mhm.
agree.
Yeah.
That is not my position.
Yeah.
My position is on a strict moral level, not in an emotional feeling just because I have family members who may feel that same way. That is not the basis on the way I feel. I'm basing it on facts of how you feel disrespected.
Mhm.
And I don't see that in
That's
the
pretty
argument.
clear. That is pretty clear. What you're
And
I
that
mean,
is where I'm saying
I
we
mean-
have to come to actually some tangible
Reasons.
reasons on why you feel this way. And I mean, it was your example that you
Well,
brought up with the sit-ins. Now we're looking at it from a moral compass, which we should be looking at as human beings, because that's changing the heart. That's the bigger part, because once we start changing the heart, that's when you're going to start changing the behavior.
So
And
let's-
so if we're looking at the moral compass of it, that's how I think we need to start approaching it.
So yeah, Tony, anything you think should be more importantly, like for anybody at home that's listening, you know, like
No.
is
I mean, just like it's obvious. I mean, and there's going to be people out there that still feel this way, but we just hope that again, look into it. Hope you've heard the facts. In terms of everything we've talked about. Hope you realize a different side. Like, well, okay, I actually see what he's been told, what he's been said, and even the other people who don't see, I'm sorry, the other people that see that it's disrespectful. I mean, I'm sorry, the people that see that it is disrespectful.
Yeah.
I think those people. I mean, for the most part, I guess I'm just doing circles here by just saying like, look at the information, like what's been said on this. I mean, if you still think it's disrespectful, ultimately it's not against the military. It isn't, never was against the veterans. Even if it is the national anthem, I think you need to always remember the fact that this was never televised in the first place. This was barely brought back in 2009. I think this is a great example of what they want to do in terms of divide. If that's what they're trying to do, I mean, they're doing a pretty damn good job of it. I mean, bringing up aspects like this, even coming up to Kaepernick and questioning this question to him when they knew he was sitting down before, and just because he started kneeling, started questioning him, because I think that there's a bigger picture to look at when it comes to this. But
Jake, anything else before we close it out? I'm thick as fuck. Yeah, but I mean, this really does open me up, because it's not until you sit down with somebody and ask the hard questions like that until you start seeing things a different way. That's definitely and the whole thing with like Kaepernick and the history behind that, and the whole defining why, not just what disrespect is, but why that's there for you, definitely can change perspective. And now I'm kind of like flipping it. I'm not okay. Now I get it, and then it gets the ball rolling, and that's how we really can help solve problems. So.
Right.
So that was a good night, and
awesome,
appreciate
guys.
it. Yeah, so
Thank you for watching the podcast. We're probably gonna, I don't know what subject we're gonna do next week, but the week after, you guys know Black Panther's out, so
Yo,
We're gonna review it because I'm so about that.
yeah, we're gonna review it.
Yeah,
so if you guys want to come,
That's my
There's
movie,
something-
dude. I'm so excited for that.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
long
hella
story
excited.
short, as a precursor.
What day we doing it?
That weekend, that actual Babe Friday.
So you going on Friday, right?
We're going on Friday to watch it. We're just gonna come here and do a
Gotcha.
review.
So
right
next
after.
time is Black Panther.
Right.
Y'all gonna touch on Black Panther.
Yeah, we're touching Black
Okay.
Panther. I'm hoping at the end of the month we're gonna talk about As a Canary Jews. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
We're talking about Jews because I'm a Jew.
Really?
Not until recently.
I converted to Judaism as of
But
Chris, you can see
And people watching this that actually know what I'm talking about are
Yeah.
probably laughing right now.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
As a Canary Jews. But anyways, guys, thank you so much.
thank you
I'm gonna
for
bite you on like that.
thank you for
Actually get myself-
letting us talk about stuff like this. So this is the kind of stuff people should be talking about at home with each other.
Right.
Do it with somebody you know. With somebody you know.
So
I
that's
think
that.
I said that.
Wait, what is that, babe? What are you doing? That's a new sign? What is that?
What does that mean?
Is a fingy.
Fingro.
Fingro?